1, 2. Check. Yep. Okay. We should be live. Let's check the... We should be is the operative word, but let's get confirmation. Okay, well, I'll look at that later. Okay, that's going too. Okay, good. Sweet. All right, so pick up the job hunt. Going to apply to 5 different places, and then got a load of other things to set up, like a Fiverr page and stuff like that. So I'm just going to start listing things out and get the job hunting done first. Then we'll spend. God, I didn't expect it to be so damn late all of a sudden. It's already 5:30. Damn. When is it? Let me have my second cup of coffee. Yeah, second cup of coffee. Copy message link. Hey, watching the NVIDIA video on the live stream that just went live now. Okay.
NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang should be getting on stage right about now, and he's going to be talking about something different from us. We will be talking about how we feel like NVIDIA has been threatening the media with access, or at least us, how it builds relationships between the press and engineers and then later uses those to manipulate the media, and how its executives throw its own employees under the bus whenever the press exposes something like this. Jensen will be talking about
artificial intelligence
and burying the RTX 5060 launch. For the last 6 months, NVIDIA has been pressuring us under threat of access to include MFG, or multi-frame generation 4X, on charts alongside devices that don't even support it, even though we've said that it's not a like-for-like comparison and that it would be an unfair misrepresentation and outright lie to even do as much. We've also heard from much smaller media how NVIDIA has slithered into their DMs to offer samples under specific guidelines. At this point, we think it's time to share some of this to protect those smaller outlets, but also make sure consumers are aware of what NVIDIA is doing behind the scenes in what we thought was a transparent and open communication with engineering, and what has become something we think is more sinister. And I guess this might destroy the possibility of working with NVIDIA at any point in the near future, because it is a kind of scorched earth approach, but that's the GN Chef special. Scorched earth. Intel's been on the list, AMD's been on the list, NVIDIA's been on the list, and off the list, and on the list, and off the list, and on the list. And they're on the list again now. NVIDIA's restriction of the newest RTX 5060 review units and drivers is interesting, where they're not distributing drivers until launch day, but it's not special. Today is about, in our opinions, NVIDIA's malignant poisoning of the media by creating a facade of open access to its people and then using those people like poker chips to subversively try to advance a certain narrative, even though it already controls 90% of the market. And less than ever, NVIDIA has needed to engage in subterfuge and manipulation, and yet more than ever, we feel that they're trying it. And that they decided to try changing editorial direction with us, of all of the outlets, made us talk to other media outlets to learn about their experience of it. And we'll have some of that later in the week as well. Now, in order to continue to be allowed to talk to thermal engineer Malcolm and technical latency expert Guillermo, both of whom are audience favorites and people we greatly enjoy working with, we've been informed that we need to talk more about multi-frame generation, especially MFG 4X, and include MFG 4X on charts, even with cards that can't feature it. And NVIDIA wants to reinforce, we think, Jensen's lie, where it's committed to making sure that 5070 equals 4090 is true. Maybe there's a concern of a future class action or something, and they want to create a paper trail to try and say that actually it is true. With increasing boldness, NVIDIA has stated to us that they might not be able to keep letting us interview Guillermo and Malcolm if we don't produce reviews the way NVIDIA executives want them to be produced. Now, us doing exactly what NVIDIA asks, even though it's in direct opposition to what we believe is right for the consumer, would be a breach of
Hey Flamage, welcome to the live stream. This is what are these guys' names? This is Gamers Nexus. So if you search for Nexius, these sons of bitches right here show up in the search before I do. Even if you type my name, Nexius, in the search, you get these dudes, and it's fine because I like their content. And they're doing a real big ballsy move by calling NVIDIA out of doing the typical access media crap that they've been doing for Hollywood and shit like that. So with review wise and stuff. So this is nothing new that this is happening to hardware reviews. It's just another company doing it. Yeah, these guys are good people. I don't mind that they show up when you search for me. If I'm going to show up in searches with people, I am in damn good company. That's the way I see it.
Of trust, and it would be lying, sort of like what Jensen did when he said this.
4090 performance at 549.
We brought you this video with store.gamersnexus.net and 10% off coupon code IDGAF, as in I don't give a fuck. You can apply it to our GPU Paper Launch t-shirt, which shows a legally distinct GPU entering a shredder to be turned into a nice green piece of paper. It's possible that NVIDIA applies this particular brand of retribution to us today, and so to continue supporting our independent reporting, head over to store.gamersnexus.net and grab one of these t-shirts in a 100% cotton or comfortable tri-blend. You should also check out our mod mats, including our new B-Stock mod mat listings for a more affordable large variant and our ever-popular GN15 large PC building anti-static mod mats. Our project and soldering mats are also available in blue, green, red, and yellow and offer a thick, high heat-resistant surface for any kind of project with easy cleanup. Consider also our new tabletop gaming dice kits, like the e-waste inductor dice with embedded inductors within them, or the Snowflake the Cat dice. These are high-quality, sharp-edge resin dice for tabletop gaming with a fully custom wooden box bearing the GN Alchemy logo, each coming with its own card in the style of popular card games. Head over to store.gamersnexus.net to support us directly, and remember, use code IDGAF for the next few days only for 10% off. NVIDIA seems to view review relationships like some kind of quid pro quo and expects that it's supposed to get something in return for them other than just the product review itself. And AMD actually used to be like that too, back before it fired all of the worst executives that were enforcing that approach. So because NVIDIA believes that this is purely transactional, we'll first prove a point. We've produced a ton of content about FSR, DLSS, and MFG. In fact, we've produced 71 minutes of content explicitly covering MFG and DLSS 4 with in-depth testing, frame-by-frame comparison of frame generation, and technical analysis. Some of it was positive. Our 5090 review was 40 minutes long. The teardown was 29 minutes long, meaning that our MFG and DLSS in-depth testing actually is longer than our 5090 review content. If we had included MFG and DLSS coverage in the 5090 review, it would have been under 4 minutes and something else would have been cut. But it's never enough for NVIDIA. NVIDIA wants MFG 4X in the charts of the reviews themselves and in the reviews. Here's the bigger problem. NVIDIA has created a situation where you can't trust the independence of any MFG or DLSS coverage because of the way it's pushing these constant threats of access to hardware, or in our case, the not even implicit, but the straight up explicit statements that interviews with people like Malcolm or Guillermo are possible if we include things like MFG in the reviews. So they have undermined the integrity of any of that coverage. I personally cannot look at anyone's review where they talk about MFG or DLSS without wondering if they got the same talk we did. And that's a problem, especially now that you all know about it. So NVIDIA told us that adding MFG and DLSS reviews was necessary to, quote, secure budget, to have Malcolm and Guillermo technical interviews on thermals and latency, even though they do not pay us. In fact, I paid tens of thousands of dollars now to fly out to their venues and their offices to cover those things. It was our cost. Our budget was the only budget in this entire conversation. And they're talking about securing budget as if this is somehow a paid exchange. Now, I don't know if that was a Freudian slip where maybe they pay other people for coverage like that. But whatever the case may be, that was how it was delivered to us, where in order to continue doing these types of interviews and for them to, quote, secure budget, we had to cover things a certain way in the reviews that were totally unrelated to the people we were even interviewing. It made no sense. But they know we don't take money for them, so I have to wonder if they view these interviews through a lens of thinking we view it as a monetary gain, such as through the other ads that are run on them, as some sort of big transaction, the way NVIDIA looks at everything. And if that's the case, then it's just plain dirty. But either way, even ignoring this misrepresentation of so-called budget, we already have over an hour of content on MFG and DLSS, and it's still not enough for them. Possibly because it wasn't purely positive, but we won't capitulate, because if you give NVIDIA an inch, they'll take a mile, and their drivers don't even fucking work anyway. This whole thing is bizarre though. Malcolm is a thermal engineer. He has nothing to do with MFG, and to be clear, we are almost certain that he has no idea he's being treated as a poker chip by NVIDIA's upper command. We like NVIDIA's acoustic, thermal, and latency engineers and have friendly rapport with them. We find them to be honest and intelligent without being marketers. The information is genuine and comes from a genuine place. I would absolutely love to continue working with Malcolm and Guillermo, but that's what makes this so gross from NVIDIA. NVIDIA is now undermining even that trust with its engineers by poisoning the well. It seeps into the ground and it can't be removed. We can't trust NVIDIA's motives for anything now, and at this point you shouldn't either, and frankly it's disturbing how many times NVIDIA brings up Malcolm's name specifically when we talk about MFG and charts. Because again, he's a thermal engineer. He makes fans and metal make things cold. That is what Malcolm does. He does not make fake frames and then put them onto charts and then lie and claim that a 5070 is a 4090. So I assume that the reason they keep bringing him up specifically in this non sequitur is because they know we like working with him. And that again just makes it even dirtier, because NVIDIA sees this opportunity of, he doesn't seem to give a fuck if we take away the cards. What if we take away access to the people the audience likes and the people that Steve likes working with? NVIDIA has accurately identified that if our GPU sampling is cut, we'll just get the hardware a different way, and they won't be a part of the conversation. That's their decision to make. If they don't want the opportunity to say anything at any point in a review, they don't have to have that opportunity. We can go get it, we'll do the testing ourselves, and we'll proceed as normal. So instead of trying to use something of less value as leverage, NVIDIA has pinpointed that we get along well with engineers, our audience likes them, and the content is great and unique. But why stop at good content for the brand when you can weaponize it to extort a certain directive? There's a lot of big words in that sentence, so that means that's the right way to do it. But frankly, if NVIDIA is viewing this as quid pro quo, then NVIDIA should be abso-fucking-lutely flattered that we've spent as much time as we have covering things like their thermal solution and doing so positively, because I think it's actually brilliant. That is how much we liked it. I will, in this video, still give them credit for the things that they've done well. But it was genuinely fun to work on. We had multiple videos calling it good. We included Schlieren imaging, which nobody else did, and we included specialized acoustic testing, which I'm also fairly certain nobody else did in that level of detail. But again, it's not good enough. It is not good enough to do these things. You also have to talk about the rest of the narrative that they want to talk about. And to be in media doing testing on hardware with such limited time before a review goes live, the whole point is that everybody does something that the other people aren't doing. That's the cool part about it. But NVIDIA doesn't get that. NVIDIA seems to want a concerted push on their narrative, and it always wants more. It is never enough for NVIDIA. By threatening access to interviews and hardware, NVIDIA has created a scenario where all of the intentions have to be questioned, and that can even include ours if people don't know about this, which is why we have to expose it now to make sure everybody's aware of exactly what's going on behind the scenes, because NVIDIA has dirtied what was otherwise a clean and fun, seemingly transparent look at their hardware. But that transparency apparently was not the only intent. It was coming with a price. And we, to maintain the transparency, will be sharing all of that with you, because we're not going to let NVIDIA use this shit as a cudgel to dictate how we cover things. It's fucked up. I went off script. NVIDIA is undermining all the DLSS and MFG content by doing this, and I'm certain that for many of our peers, just like for us, they looked at the technologies. That's the NVIDIA bike going by. They're trying to make sure you can't hear me. Many of our peers probably looked at the technologies because they were genuinely interested in it, but you still have to look at it and wonder what was going on behind the scenes, and was it the same as it was for us? And again, this is a problem for NVIDIA, and I'm not sure they even thought about it that way, which is a big issue. So, for example, I spoke with Hardware Unboxed. I know Hardware Unboxed genuinely wanted to cover the MFG and DLSS technology, and their intentions were good. Hardware Unboxed, though, is interesting and will come up later because they got a talk similar to the one we just got years and years ago for similar editorial direction standpoint on reviews. But the problem that emerges is now every reviewer is looking at this video going, oh fuck, I have to now justify that I actually talked about this stuff because I wanted to, not because NVIDIA told me to. So it creates this cascade of issues, all from NVIDIA. NVIDIA is well known in the industry for being vindictive, not just towards media, but its own partners. EVGA left loudly because of it, and we had exclusives in our coverage of that. But over the years, every board partner we've spoken to has been terrified at one point or another of NVIDIA's visceral reactions to innocuous things. When I fought NVIDIA over this editorial direction push that they've been pursuing in our calls, which I've recorded and I am prepared to release if I have to, because NVIDIA was also recording those calls, and both parties were aware that NVIDIA was recording those calls because they were calls for the press. Just to be clear, NVIDIA, I am prepared to release them if I need to reinforce my statements today. But in those calls, I repeatedly pointed out that this whole thing of pursuing a certain editorial pushed narrative, that creates a transparency problem. And a different NVIDIA representative stated, my transparency is that I give you a card to test and review. That's my form of transparency. Which is like, okay, but you didn't though, because you didn't send a 5060. And for the people who did get it, the drivers aren't public anyway. So first of all, fuck off for even saying that. And secondly, it's not even true. The fuck off part's not in the script. But our contacts are good people, and so we've wondered where all this is coming from. The answer is from the top. We asked other people, not our contacts, and particularly former insiders, and found that executive level decisions from 3 people are landing on PR around the world to force through media. NVIDIA's misleading demands of MFG4X inclusion in reviews would help it to avoid the problem that it has now, which is that its products aren't improving as much as the price.
Is that snake skin or is that alligator? Or is it some sort of like polymer that just happens to be like shaped like lizard hide? This motherfucker thinks he's Todd Howard. Bruh.
Price is increasing. But even if someone wanted to add that data to reviews, NVIDIA often only gives reviewers 3 to 5 full days to review a card, sometimes a week if we're lucky. And then there's the fact that its own drivers are currently so fucked up beyond all recognition, or the FUBAR drivers as I call them, that even enabling MFG or DLSS in some games with some settings causes them to crash or...
I have noticed that all of the new stuff that NVIDIA has is wonky. I typically go back to some of like the older, more open settings. Their upscaling thing, I don't know if I like the upscaling thing, especially around Warframe. There seems to be some sort of there's too many visual artifacts that I notice for like the FXAA upscaling or whatever. I know there's things are a little too hazy around the edges and stuff. I don't know.
The system to shut down. So it's already physically impossible to do all the tests that we...
NVIDIA used to be king on drivers. It used to be NVIDIA where it's like, oh, you want your game to work day one? Oh, it better have an NVIDIA driver. Like, I actually got rid of what was that game? Rage, by id Software. The AMD drivers, GPU drivers for that game, it was like 3 or 4 months, and then I got rid of the card and got an NVIDIA card, and it worked no problem. And I think it was a total of like 9 months before there was a stable build of video drivers for the AMD for that particular game. Meanwhile, NVIDIA GeForce Experience is kicking ass. But then again, I mean, we're just end user consumers. These people's real customers are people that buy data farms. where they have an entire cabinets of GPUs the taller than a man, and you just have rows upon rows of those in a level 3 bunker somewhere. Like that's NVIDIA's real customers.
We do in that time and yet add more, and then it doesn't even work sometimes anyway, which would mean we take other things out, which NVIDIA would also be mad about. But that doesn't matter because we don't produce reviews for NVIDIA to be happy about.
I heard that whatever the current gen GPUs are at, like ever since AMD came out with the Ryzen, they've been kicking ass. Their new architecture has just been spot on. So I was actually going to try to get an AMD GPU this generation, but why did I not make in the GPU? Oh, I bought it's because I bought the closest thing in class on sale right before the prices started to go up. Yeah, in fact, in the next couple of days, over the next couple of days, we'll look in. I'll live stream looking into using something like Stable Diffusion on running it on my GPU. I was looking at the instructions the other day, and it looks doable. So maybe we can come up with some cool video transitions or something, like some cool video morph transitions or something using Stable Diffusion. No idea how long it's going to take, but we'll consult one of the Bobs or multiple Bobs, and they will help us figure it out.
About them, we produce reviews for people to buy products or not buy products or buy competing products. That's what we do as our service. And so from NVIDIA's viewpoint, we basically need to change our editorial direction. And pressuring us isn't going to work, but it's also not the first time NVIDIA's done this for people. The last time they chose other Steve from Hardware Unboxed, and back then it was only the access to hardware they threatened, which Steves don't care about because Steves can get the hardware from other Steves in the industry. Frankly, I think they're discriminating against Steves because we're at a 2-for-2 hit rate on Steves who have been threatened by NVIDIA. But we've also learned something interesting. The last time this happened, back when Hardware Unboxed was told to adjust their editorial direction to include more focus on technology that wasn't ready for prime time, we learned that, allegedly, the directive came from the top, one of 3 people, and was forced down through media contacts. We also learned from numerous former NVIDIA employees that the executives have a culture of throwing people under the Jensen bus, which adds a new layer of deceit to the whole approach. Because now, instead of access to a simple physical hardware product, and instead of also adding this sort of Damocles over the reviewer of access to interviewing and engineering discussions, it also has the third run, which is that anyone in the media with a conscience is going to wonder how exposing something like we're doing today is going to affect the messengers who are given the message to send to us when it goes back up the chain and they have a "who did this to me" conversation. So I know these demands aren't necessarily coming directly from the representatives who work for NVIDIA and talk to us. We think it's coming from above them. And to try and prove this theory, I went and I spoke to a ton of other media you all likely know from all around the world. And I learned that in all of these regions, there is a consistent theme of this background pressure of covering certain things in a certain way in reviews. And that is a global thing for NVIDIA, which we think means it really narrows it down to the top of the top, because this is not some like rogue American PR thing. This seems to be a company culture thing. And when this is seen at the top, I want to make sure that the executives don't have the ability to just blame the people below them. That's why I emailed one of them. Matt Webling, the head of GeForce Marketing, immediately tried to put his employee in front of him as a shield when I sent an email saying we need to speak on record. We told our contact to please stay out of it and pushed Webling for answers on a recorded call because he's an actual executive who has control over some of this stuff. And we wanted to speak to someone who has the full and accurate picture of what happened internally to to go over how they're doing this again. It's just like when we spoke to Asus at Computex last year. The first thing they do is put someone in marketing in front of us. Nice guy, not the right guy. And we kept pushing until we could get the director of something to try and get answers. That would be what we were doing here. But Webling stopped responding for a week after I told PR to stay out of it. So we replied to acknowledge that his response was loud and clear, and that we'd communicate his thoughts to his customers. We also anticipated vindictive sampling actions, so we've preempted that. Let's take a walk down memory lane. In 2018, HardOCP broke a story about the NVIDIA GeForce Partner Program, which was described as follows, quote, "The crux of the issue with the NVIDIA GPP comes down to a single requirement in order to be part of GPP. In order to have access to the GPP program, its partners must have its gaming brand aligned exclusively with GeForce." That was a quote. "I've read documents," said Bennett, "with this requirement spelled out on it. What would it mean to have your gaming brand aligned exclusively with GeForce? Honks for the GeForce Partner Program here in Taipei." Quote, "The example that will likely resonate best with HardOCP readers is the Asus Republic of Gamers brand. I have no knowledge if Asus is a GPP partner. I'm simply using the ROG brand hypothetically. If Asus is an NVIDIA GPP partner and it wants to continue to use NVIDIA GPUs in its ROG branded video cards, computers, and laptops, it can no longer sell any other company's GPUs in ROG products. So if Asus wants to keep building NVIDIA-based ROG video cards, it can no longer sell AMD-based ROG video cards and be a GPP partner." End quote on that one, as an example of what we think is vindictiveness. In 2020, NVIDIA tried to restrict Hardware Unboxed's access to GPUs because they weren't front-loading and heavily emphasizing ray tracing testing, which Hardware Unboxed maintained was because the technology simply wasn't ready yet. That was their opinion. We'd agree with it as well, especially in that era. But NVIDIA didn't care. And for the internet out there, look, we get it. We get that NVIDIA makes more money with AI than it does for gaming, and that by simply selling a gaming GPU, it's giving away money. But if it wants to abandon gaming, it should just do it. It's okay, NVIDIA. It really is. If you want to just leave gaming and make all the money from data center and enterprise, you can do that. Just don't fuck it up for the rest of us on your way out the door by trying to manipulate how the coverage is handled. And it almost reminds me of the SGI situation, which is out of business now. And SGI only sold GPUs for the most part to enterprise, data center, and B2B. They didn't think that consumers could really afford GPUs or would have a use for them. Jensen Huang founded NVIDIA with some others and pursued consumer graphics and built the company that it is today. If Jensen wants to repeat that history and go only B2B, that is totally fine. And it might not even repeat this time. It might be that B2B is big enough now that he can maintain a B2B only company and not do gaming. So it's not that our gamers still being sold too thin that's the problem for us. It's the manipulation that's the problem of it. It's the threat that's handing over people like us when it has these conversations. If NVIDIA wants to cut off its nose to spite its face, they can do that by disallowing further well-received, highly reviewed, neutral to positive technical interviews with their engineers. But if NVIDIA instead is going to threaten us on the fulcrum of a particular type of coverage, then we believe that starts to become a form of extortion. And we think that NVIDIA made a calculated play here, where NVIDIA realized if it takes away access to cards, it doesn't do a whole lot. Taking away access to money doesn't do anything because they don't give us money. But what if it takes away access to the things that generate money through separate channels, like just through YouTube AdSense? Maybe that'll work. That's how I felt receiving these messages. And just to be clear for our audience, again, referring to the coupon code 10% off on store.gamersnexus.net, I don't give a fuck what NVIDIA does for any of that, because we're going to continue on just the same. I would love to bring you all engineering content and interviews and let them tell their story in a way that's educational and actually useful for people. If NVIDIA doesn't want to be a part of that, that's fine. They can fuck off and do whatever they want, and we'll keep doing our thing. Ultimately, that's why we have audience support from you all, so we can do stuff like this. So anyway, at some point, enough is enough. And that's true for consumers too. And to keep that thought in mind of enough is enough, I'll leave you with a message from the late Gordon Ma-Un, my friend and mentor, who once said this at this very location in Taipei.
Internet, you will disagree, you will piss and moan in the comments all day, you will cry about it, scream about it, go on Twitter and Reddit, and and then you go to buy your NVIDIA card. And the internet, because I know you right now, it's like, yeah, this is like, I only care about value, you know, F you, NVIDIA. You know, what's up with the prices?
Hey, Gordon.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're in a restaurant.
Pocket Pair just confirmed what we all suspected, that the changes made last November were indeed motivated by Nintendo's lawsuit. Now, if you're out of the loop here, the update made pals spawn next to the player rather than spawning from balls. But today's story is not just the confirmation of that, it's also what happens next, because Pocket Pair are now saying that this is not the end. Even more changes are coming to the game, and not because they're changes that players really want to have made. Basically, Nintendo are very much still at it, and Pocket Pair have outlined how they're going to fight back. Thanks to reporting from the specialist outlet GamesFray, we now have some idea of how Pocket Pair plan to defend itself. Now, this comes from filings in February reviewed by GamesFray at the Tokyo District Court. Basically, the plan is to prove that Nintendo should have never been granted their patents in the first place, and this comes down to a pretty simple concept. So Nintendo filed patents in December 2021 that have been iterated on after Palworld released. Now, those most recent patent updates were filed after Palworld came out, but they were, right, extended from previously filed patents. Now, under patent law, that's allowed, where the principle is that the natural evolution of the patent under, like continued development should also be protected. But there's a natural counter to this, and that natural counter is called prior art. And prior art is what Pocket Pair intend to use. So the idea is that prior art existed before the original 2021 filing date, where the combination of two separate mechanics could reasonably give rise to the patent Nintendo holds. So as an example, everyone's pointed to the idea that Pocket Pair's previous game Craftopia also had a ball capture mechanic. Now, Pocket Pair is not arguing that Craftopia alone means that Nintendo never should have been granted that patent, but by acknowledging Craftopia plus the influence of other existing games, the patented mechanic could be arrived at naturally through regular development processes, as opposed to, say, nabbing it from Nintendo and infringing upon their patent. Basically, as GamesFray puts it, when you add any of the following to Craftopia, you get to the same place that Palworld did, and that they're accused of infringing Nintendo's design with. So let's just make that feel real by bringing in some actual other video games, right? So games like Rune Factory 5, Titanfall 2, and Pikmin 3 Deluxe all feature a character releasing monsters/capture items in a direction by releasing a button. Yes, your Titan in Titanfall, I suppose, is a Pokemon. Jokes aside, you get the point though. Pikmin, Far Cry, and Tomb Raider all highlight that you have a variety of throwable objects as part of their mechanics. Meanwhile then, you've got Pocket Souls, the mod for Dark Souls, Octopath Traveler, and Final Fantasy all showing that you can pick targets on a field with a visual representation of how successful you might be. Okay, so those are broad examples, they're varied examples. I guess there's also the example of the Pokemon GTA mod, but basically, it's no coincidence that Nintendo games find themselves present in these lists. Pocket Pair are basically banking on the validity of Nintendo's patents being granted as their main argument here, right? That they shouldn't have been granted, that is, that they're not valid. And the more that they can muddy the water around whether Nintendo should have them, the better the chance that the whole case gets thrown out. But there's a question to be asked of this situation. The Japanese lawsuit is ongoing, and these changes won't necessarily stop that right now. So why make them, right? Why would Pocket Pair do all of this whenever it might seem they're making some progress? Well, that's because they might not influence Japan, but they might have an impact on the potential American lawsuit. A fun situation's going down in the US, many of them in fact, but let's just stay in the patents for now. So generally, whenever someone loses 22 out of 23 arguments, that's not really seen as victory, right? You'd think that, but it's not necessarily the case in patent law, and I've got some good news here. GamesFray explain it to me like I'm 5 series. That means that the rest of us can actually understand what's going on. And yes, thanks to them, because this stuff can be so goddamn dense. So, per their explainer, Nintendo have been making more moves in the US with applications to the US Patent and Trademark Office. Now, these take a while to resolve, so today's set of updates will range from starting back in 2022 through to February of 2025. And to simplify things, Gamefrey explained that Nintendo have been recently granted several patents by the office. Patent 1 relates to capturing a character in a field environment, so like any recent Pokemon game. Patent 2 is about players exchanging items, and Patent 3 is about using an aimed item to capture a fighting character. Rather obviously, all three of these could be applied to Palworld, with the latter two filed in 2022, while the first was filed in May 2024 after Palworld's release. Now, these are all matters of record, but they strengthen any case that Nintendo wants to make in the US about Palworld. And as for the losses, well, those losses are actually new. So 22 of the 23 losses came in the form of another application for a patent, this time a patent about writing objects in-game. Gamefrey reported this as having been served a final rejection where, as part of the claims regarding the patent, Nintendo had 22 of their 23 claims be rejected. But it turns out you only really need one for it to be a problem. Now, that last claim only needed to be reworked for the patent to be granted. So Nintendo is very much not defeated in America, even though 22 of their claims for this patent, weren't accepted. And there's actually a lot Nintendo can do. They can appeal the decision, they can rework the claims in line with feedback, or they could even try to convince the patent examiner that some of the 22 rejected claims are valid. And that all seems like a lot of work just to try to toss one more patent on top of the pile that they're accumulating in the US. But it's Nintendo. They're mercs legally. And it's actually wider than just them. And that's not just my opinion. It's directly from the mouths of people who actually make the patent decisions, because they are huge business. In January of this year, we got to see things from the perspective of the people who actually file these lawsuits. Automaton reported on the, quote, importance of intellectual property rights in the games industry at Tokyo Esports Fiesta 2025. This was attended by Capcom, Nintendo, Sega, Konami, and Koei Tecmo. So Sega and Konami's representatives framed these mechanical patents in a way that was very explicit, that it's about incentivizing developers to make new systems and then protecting those systems from being stolen and recouping the high costs of developing games by licensing. And the latter part in particular was the real value of all of this work, rather than potentially risky or expensive lawsuits. But patents are also a significantly more useful tool to have than just copyright alone. Capcom's representative echoed Nintendo's with the idea that they can protect their brands, right, from infringement or damage via patents, and it's basically another tool in their arsenal, especially when brands are capable of skirting full copyright, but say can capture the spirit of a game. So for them, it's not necessarily, at least they frame it, about stamping out competition or punishing smaller teams for trying to innovate by iterating on other games. It's more about protecting what they have from other companies, big or small, not necessarily great. And that's why Nintendo, for an example, files patents for every mechanic in their games, regardless of the likelihood of them being granted. And it's that leaves the companies that breach those patents in hot water. Yes, in a way that can feel very direct and targeted, like what we've been talking about here, but also just in a systemic level, right? In that this is kind of how the system ends up working. They just make a point of filing patents for everything, right? Because they have then maximum coverage. That means, well, they can use those to further whatever ends they may have. And it's for that reason that, within Palworld, we're seeing all the fun business around gliding, in addition to the fact that the pals now spawn beside you instead of out of a ball. But okay, now that we've explored a lot of the situation, let's bring it all together. First off, this is not going to be resolved quickly. That's just not how this stuff goes, and especially if these lawsuits expand to the US or further afield. Pocket Pair is clearly planning to take Nintendo on to the best of their ability here, despite Nintendo's legendary legal track record. I mean legendary. All of their lawyers are John Wick type people. So if they can win, it will be a brilliant David and Goliath story. But with companies like Capcom and Sega very happy to explain that these patents are part and parcel of game development now, it's not necessarily going to be an earth-shattering change either. It's not going to be a case where Pocket Pair could win and then standards and all sorts of things in the industry would change. No, not really. The system's too big, there's too much money in it, and realistically speaking, like so many things, it inherently does favor the incumbents, because guess what? They actually have got the resources to do all of these patent filings, right? They actually have the resources to do those things. That means that, say, if everyone was to have an equal quantity of patentable innovation, who are the people who would be most able to act on that opportunity by using their resources? Is it the small little indie team, or is it the company with a humongous legal department? It's obviously the latter, and that's how it inherently plays in the favor of the incumbents. That's why the likes of your Capcoms, your Segas, etc. are all happy to talk about how this is an important part of modern game development. Big happy smiles. I suppose we'll just have to see what happens to PALs next. But anyway, as fun as all this is, if you want to get the lowdown on a very spicy new business model of, hey, just licensed branded expansions, watch this video next.
Terminator 2 is one of the most iconic movies of all time, partially because it has one of the coolest villains of all time, the T-1000. A Terminator composed of liquid metal capable of changing its shape into anything, including people. However, this was only made possible due to the recent invention of CGI. Creating this character using practical effects was thought to be impossible, but is that really true? This is a scale model of my head made out of gallium, a metal that melts at around room temperature. By reversing the footage of it melting, I think it might be possible to achieve the liquid Terminator effect without using CGI. Or at least that's the idea. How hard can it be? I've always been fascinated by special effects because filmmaking is literally creative problem solving. It's a hack. Artists have to figure out how to create something that doesn't exist, but make you believe that it does nonetheless. In this case, the problem was making a character out of liquid metal. The solution was, of course, CGI, resulting in a watershed moment in the industry. The effects of T2 were a big deal, and we've of course talked about how big of a deal on this channel before.
This is hard to do.
In fact, if T2 had been made just a couple years earlier, the artist would have been forced to try and make the T-1000 using just practical effects. But what would that have looked like though, you know? Maybe something a little like this. No, that's not CGI, that is actually mercury, a liquid metal used in old thermometers, but it's incredibly toxic. The artist in charge of getting these shots used a respirator and full protective gear and somehow still ended up in the hospital from mercury poisoning. This is nasty stuff, so probably not on the books for us using that here. Gallium, on the other hand, isn't toxic at all and also melts at just 85 degrees. Just don't let it touch aluminum.
What?
Gallium is mostly used in electronics and LEDs and was even used in the movie for a shot of the frozen shards melting. However, no one knows what a full gallium T-1000 would look like because as far as I'm aware, no one has ever attempted it before. Until now. I'm gonna try to do this. So here's the plan. I'm going to make a photo scan of my head that I will then 3D print at quarter scale so I can create a silicone mold from it, allowing me to cast gallium into that shape. And by recording it melting and reversing the footage, I should be able to replicate the effects of the T-1000 forming up into a person. And we're gonna do it all without using CGI. But digital compositing is totally on the table and okay. But here's the catch, gallium is a little expensive, and by a little expensive, I mean very expensive, which is gonna be outside the budget for this video. So I need a way to get gallium for free. Out of everyone I hit up, Stanford Advanced Materials are the only ones who responded with any amount of interest. They're not sponsoring this video, but dang are they making it possible. Now this is all the gallium we have, all of it. And at the end of this project, I have to send it back, which means I have to be extremely careful. No little strands get lost. So it turns out melting gallium is a surprisingly tricky process. Just because it melts below the temperature of your hand doesn't mean it will actually melt in your hand. It's a thermodynamics thing. As a metal, it conducts heat really well, which spreads the heat across the whole lump of metal pretty evenly. So to melt it, you either need a lot of time or a lot of heat. If you want to melt your gallium quickly, you can use hot water outside of the bottle. You can put hot water inside the bottle. It doesn't mix with the gallium. You can also just set your oven to the lowest temperature and then bake it.
Can you just microwave it?
You want me to microwave the gallium? I don't recommend microwaving it.
Whoa.
Whoa, dude.
T-1000.
Whoa, dude.
That's so cool.
I feel like you guys should be like wearing gloves or something.
It's not toxic! It's not toxic! It's fine!
Are you gonna make some ice cubes?
I'm gonna make some ice cubes. Oh, I have enough for several. These should pop right.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's cool.
It actually looks like a poured metal mold.
I am quite impressed. Look at how smooth this guy is.
Have you put any of them in your mouth yet?
I put one in my mouth.
I suspect the videos that you'll be making will be progressively simpler from here on out.
I'm covered in toxic material.
Yeah, quick, put it in your mouth like Red did.
Okay, so I've set up the heat gun on a C-stand here, and I'm gonna basically record a time lapse of these guys melting. Yeah, okay, they're starting to bubble a little bit. That one just moved. It like settled, it rocked, while simultaneously starting to look more like crumpled up aluminum foil. This will be surface tension in action. Oh, that was cool. It's making a little gallium butt cheek. That's almost fully melted. First thing I learned, that was dope.
Tell me the editor is bored without telling me the editor is really bored.
That looked really cool. Oh, whoa, that's sick. I don't even know what I'm looking at. Oh, it's reversed. Okay, I was like, what the heck? All right, let's melt some more stuff. Different volumes, different shapes. I found this turtle mold online. Jordan named it Charlie. I killed Charlie. And then made a skull. Ooh, look at that skull. I needed more heat, so I decided to buy 2 extra heat guns here. 2 heat guns from either side hitting the front of it, and then 1 heat gun from the back pointed downwards. But we have to consider how much power these things are gonna draw. Now we wait. There's a bit of an oxide layer on the outside of the skull, and all of the gallium is actually melting underneath that. I think that's actually kind of cool, because it gives it like this crumpled up, wrinkled texture. I really hope it doesn't fall over backwards. Yeah, dude, how is that not gonna fall over? You see that?
How soon until they actually get to where they use maybe like a propane blowtorch? Because you could get a cone of a propane blue flame, just get like it'd be a hell of a lot hotter than 3 electric fucking whatever you call them, those 3 electric heater things. Anyway, those air heaters. That's not gonna do the trick.
That's a ruined shot. The T-1000 is a smooth operator. He just smoothly transforms, and to replicate that effect, the melt needs to be smooth as well. If the piece falls over, it produces a jerky motion that kills the effect when it's sped up. So we're gonna have to figure out a way to keep it from falling over while still getting that sort of like meltiness of the figure.
Ren, could you put like an armature inside of it?
I'm gonna make a gallium popsicle using a fork. I'm gonna stick this in, solidify it, and it'll melt around this. It worked, but if you've ever eaten a popsicle, you know that at a certain point, it's gonna just fall off of the stick. But this time I'm trying something a little different for the heat. Instead of using heat guns, I got a blowtorch. The blowtorch was cool, but it worked almost like too well. Like you can literally see when I moved the blowtorch in the time lapse. But when we tried just placing the blowtorches on C-stands, then it just didn't finish melting.
I was actually talking about getting one of those 5-gallon tanks. And there are these hose attachments you can get for them. You can get one of those.
But that's okay. We learned something from this. The blowtorches aren't gonna work. And even
when I was thinking that was not, I mean, yeah, okay, it's a propane blowtorch, great. But that's a baby propane blowtorch. You don't have to have a baby propane blowtorch. You can get an attachment that'll connect to a 5-gallon propane tank and you can go to town.
even though the heat
Don't ask me how I know.
guns will melt it slower, it's way more consistent, so I just gotta be patient. Yeah, that didn't jitter at all, and I'm surprised how long it stayed on the fork. Okay, so I think the fork is actually gonna work really well. So the next thing I wanna try is actually melting a version of me. So I need to 3D print a version of me using today's sponsor, Bamboo Lab.
What do you got there, Ren?
I've got a Bamboo Lab A1 Mini, but they've also got the A1, they've got the P1 and the P1S, and at the top, they've got the X1 Carbon, which you've probably seen on the
I was going to get me an A1 Mini, and then a friend talked me into a different model, and then I got laid off. So as soon as we start making money again, we'll get a 3D printer.
This channel, I've used it a bunch before. What makes these printers really good is that they've done 3 things very well. They're extremely fast, and they're really good, and more than anything, they're incredibly convenient to use. Bamboo has an app that allows you to not only connect to the printer and see all the settings in real time and the webcam view, they've also got a catalog of models called Maker World. You can literally browse a bunch of different 3D models, pick one that you think is interesting. That's kind of cool. I can literally say, prepare to print A1 Mini, and I can hit start print. Bamboo also sells a bunch of different types of filaments and different colors, and using the AMS, you can actually select between 4 different filaments, either one at a time or all in the same print. So if you're wanting to get into 3D printing, or maybe you used to be into 3D printing and want to get back into it, now is probably the best time ever, because they're running a Black Friday deal that's already started and will go through December. There's plenty of time. This printer right here is $200.
I'm not even a part of this ad, and I think you should buy it.
We've got a link in the description if you want to check it out. It's 3D printing is so much fun.
Get into it. Make yourself a finger.
Now I guess I just got to print my head and make a mold out of it. Now, to turn this into gallium, I need to first make a rubber mold out of this. It's notoriously tricky and can take years to master, so naturally, this is my first time trying to do that. You know, I've seen Adam Savage do this, I've seen the other YouTubers do this. You take some foam board here, you cut it to shape. Basically, I'm gonna make a little bowl. I'm gonna put this little guy in the bowl, glue it down. So now I need to fill it with some silicone. I got some stuff here from Let's Resin. These are equal parts where I mix half of this and half of that, and it combines into something that will solidify into a silicone mold. Here we go. Oh my God, there's so many bubbles in that. They say to get rid of all the air bubbles, you pour very slowly and from very high. This is gonna take a while. I'm excited though, I'm actually doing it, dude. I wish I could look at you, but I can't. I've been fascinated with like silicone mold making for the last like couple years or so. I just like the concept of being able to capture stuff. That's why I've been, you know, really interested in 3D scanning. There's so much more history behind this technique though. It's like, this has been in movie making for decades, if not a century. We might just barely have enough. God dang it. I gotta mix more. Okay. 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 As with everything I typically do, it was a little bit harder than I expected it to be. But I think we did it. I think this is gonna work. I'm excited. All right, now for the demolding process here, where I gotta actually remove the thing from the thing. I'm also gonna cut with like a little bit of unevenness to kind of create a little bit of registration so that when I put the mold back together, it lines up. Open this up, flex it outwards, and there you have it. It's time to turn my head into gallium. I'm now realizing I don't think this is going to solidify unless we put it in the fridge, even if I leave it out all night here. Oh no. We're getting a hard leak here, dude. Oh, this is not a good situation. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I'm just gonna remove all of the gallium. I gotta seal this leak. I got a little bit of silicone sealant. I'm just literally just gonna go over the top of that. With this sealed, we still need to find some sort of way to clamp this with a lot of rigidity. We're gonna take this upstairs and put it in the fridge. And last but not least, I'm gonna put a fork in it. All right, I think that'll work. I think that'll work. Oh no.
What? Oh no!
Okay, maybe I can freeze the leak with an ice cube. It's Jank City in this video. That's what we signed up for. The ice like froze the leak here. Do you know what I see in the middle already? I saw layer lines. Oh my God. That's so cool.
That's cool. Is it on a fork?
Yeah.
Oh. Whoa! It's like Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Is that a lick line from you, dude?
No? Why would you think that?
No! Don't do it!
Wait, that's metal? Yeah.
So the idea is now that you melt this guy and then you reverse it. And then you're a Terminator.
Exactly.
Nice.
Exactly.
What? I just showed up.
So I'm going back to trying the heat guns with the fork. We have yet to try that. It's getting so skinny. It looks like an alien now. Successful test. Ooh, by the way, if you want to print your own head, Bamboo actually just released a Make My Statue feature, which will create a model from a single picture. This feature just rolled out. It's pretty cool. I wish it came out a lot sooner because I would have used it on this video, but alas, it didn't exist then. It does now. You can check it out. I feel like I want to take this one step further and actually try to do a visual effects test with this.
I like to think I inspired this whole video because I gave Ren a vial of gallium several years ago for his birthday.
Jan, did you know that you actually inspired this video?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so I rotoed the metal out of the shot, and I just put it into the shot that I'm in.
Okay,
It's like, even though we're doing this effect practically, you know, we're not using CGI, I still believe that visual effects are on the table still.
Sure. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it as a full effect.
I think this was the one I wore in. That was surprisingly hard. That was the longest I've stood for a scan before. I could feel sweat dripping down my spine.
Ooh.
Thanks, Austin.
You got it.
Hell yeah, we got a nice little scan of us.
That's the first ever scan I got of you.
So you want to see something real quick? You want to know how I can tell they've adapted their studio for AI tools? See how this used to be green, but they've painted it over white? That's because it's easier to get the AI tools to trigger off of a white background. There's still some uses for a green screen, but it looks like they've painted over all of their green screen walls white because they're now using AI tools for like masking and keying and things.
Oh boy, that was surprisingly hard. That was the longest I've stood for a scan before. I could feel sweat dripping down my spine.
Ooh.
Thanks, Austin.
You got it.
Hell yeah, we got a nice little scan of us.
That's the first ever scan I got of you that you knew about.
So I got a scan, but that wasn't enough. I actually went through and I sculpted more crevices, more creases, and more detail into the scan itself so that we have all that nice crispy detail in the 3D print. Look at how much more extra detail there is in this. Just look at the difference between these. This guy's here to have fun, but this one's here to kill John Connor. Now keys. It's still a little rough, so I'm gonna hit it with some primer and sand it down so that it is as smooth as possible. So this is now really smooth. This is a huge improvement over what we've been using previously. But that's not the only thing I've improved. I actually designed a custom silicone casing just for this. First, I glue this down to the base. Now I'm gonna hit it with some mold release so I can actually remove it from the mold. And of course, hit the inside of the mold as well. I'm gonna glue down the walls of the housing, and then to prevent leakage, we're gonna clamp the sides down. Now it's time to mix our silicone. I got more this time so I don't run out. Now I'm gonna mix it with something that's a little bit better than a popsicle stick. Now, of course, all that mixing put a lot of gas into this, so I'm gonna actually extract that gas with a vacuum chamber. Now it's bubbling. That is some airless silicone right there. We just made rubber. Yeah, I mean, the second attempt at making a mold has gone way smoother than the first. Hopefully it doesn't leak through the sides that I didn't think about sealing up. Oh no, dang it, that's why I was supposed to put in the hot glue on the sides. There's still time, there's still time. So I'm gonna hope this is enough. I'm gonna keep pouring. Okay, it's still leaking. Dude, it's leaking around the hot glue. What the heck? Oh my God. Well, there just went all the glue. I think we may have spoken too soon when we said this was going smoother. I don't want to give up on this. See, this is already starting to work. I just had to keep putting hot glue on top. Now to mix this up again. Oh, gotta degas this now. All right, ready? Here goes the rest of it. It's hardcore leaking now. No. I need something better than frickin' hot glue. I need something real heavy. Do you know what weighs a lot? Water. Shoot! It started spilling everywhere. Meanwhile, it's just leaking downstairs. That's what like practical stuff is, which is why experience is so valuable. Cool. Oh man, it does not want to release from that chin. There we go, okay. Oh no, it's not cured on the head. Ooh. Oh man, it's goopy everywhere in here. What happened? What would have done that? Yeah, so this problem is called cure inhibition, and that happens anytime like a chemical interferes with the silicone's ability to cure, causing a goopy mess specifically where I need it to not be goopy. I wonder if the play here is to actually just wash this out with isopropyl alcohol. I don't want to say what I'm thinking on camera. God, it's still just as sticky, and it's like leaving a residue on my finger, so it will leave a residue on the gallium. I hate to say it, but I think this is toast. All that work.
Well, now you can.
I'm like
glue it right this
95%
time.
certain that the thing that was causing the cure inhibition was actually this primer paint. So instead of doing this, I gave it one more coat of this paint right here, which is acrylic based, and that should put a layer around the print here. I'm pretty optimistic about this one. This is not going to leak this time. I've sealed it up pretty well. All right, I am seeing no leaks. I think this might be working. It's working! It's working!
It's the biggest mold lines I've ever seen.
Was it gooey? Oh, dude, that green paint just melted this stuff.
This is so much worse. So much worse. I mean, look how gross this is. This is so ridiculous. Oh my God, come on. How is it worse than the last one? I was pretty sure it was the spray paint beforehand, but now I'm double, triple sure that it's the spray paint now. Even though I don't know why, because I thought the second spray paint would fix it, not make it worse. But I think the easy solution here is to just not use any spray paint at all.
What does the T-1000 do when he's shattered into 1,000,000 pieces?
He pulls himself back together, piece by piece, and perseveres and continues. God dang, that was the inspiration I needed, Daniel. All right, let's do this. Since I can't smooth it out with paint, I'm going to just print this thing at a much higher resolution. And to do that, all I gotta do is swap out the nozzle with a much smaller 0.2 millimeter wide nozzle, which will allow for a layer height of 0.04 millimeters. This should create enough detail in my print that I don't need to do any post-processing and smoothing. Let's try this again. If I had a lot more experience, I would have already understood these problems going into this project and just jumped over those hurdles before they even became hurdles. I'm accruing that experience right now. I'm slowly digging into that hillside that says rookie, and I'm whittling that down. But that's how you learn any skill. Tackling it, learning it through pure experience. We have failure number 1, we have failure number 2. I really hope that this is not failure 3. So let's crack it open and find out. I think it's solid. I think it worked. Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, dude, these little flippy floppies. Flippy floppies! This is ready for casting right now. What a day. I made a gallium head. Okay. Wow, dude. That's the Terminator right there. It's time to melt. This is still a test at the end of the day, but it only really works if we treat it like the real thing. It's going. It's kind of getting a little bit of that tiny head, big body look. Dude, look at that neck. Look at that neck. Look how tiny that neck is. Dude, look at that neck. No, seriously, it might fall off. Dude, look at that neck snap. Ah! Well, I think that was a success, more or less. Let's take a look. Here's the shot. Little lifeless, but I realized I could do like a mesh track on my body and apply that tracking to the statue. So I'm using this plugin called Lockdown, made by my buddy Chris. So with the lockdown applied, it looks like this. I mean, it's pretty subtle, but it makes a big difference. So for the final thing, I'm gonna amp it up a little bit more, add a little bit more motion to it, but I think this is gonna work. I'm excited about this. Okay, we're filming the actual short film. We're not just doing a test VFX shot. This is hopefully the final one. I'm applying everything I've learned over all the experiments we've done so far, but I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna turn out. There's always an element of chance. I'm a little worried maybe we'll blow a breaker because we got all these heat guns going. If the heat guns turn off or the lights go out, the shot is essentially ruined. So I hope that doesn't happen. I've tried to make precautions so that it doesn't, but you never know. Here we go.
That sucks.
Dang, that's a ruined shot, I think. Where's the breaker for in here?
Back in the bathroom. I'm gonna put it back right here.
Cool, thank you. So this doesn't happen again. I need to distribute the load. Brandon, can I actually plug into your office?
Okay. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
We're good.
Just a little crossfade is all this needed. It's like 5 frames.
Just a 5-frame crossfade, no big deal.
Another perfectly executed take.
Yep, perfectly.
It is a little maddening that he just like, I mean, you've seen my workflow. We would have gone to ChatGTP and gotten the process to begin with. Explain to me why paint, what are the symptoms of the non-curing whatever? Non-curing silicone. Here's the stuff that I used. What caused it? Don't even fucking tell me.
Got the code again. Is it 800 or is it 101? You forgot your digital key again, didn't you? Here, try mine. I'm just playing. Yeah, let's go. You scared me, man. You owe me another coffee, by the way. Yeah, but I will also need that key back. It's me. So yeah, what'd you think? I'm pretty pleased with it. I think it actually ended up working pretty well. And yeah, in case you're wondering, the melt you're seeing in the video is the same one where the power went out. It actually ended up working perfectly. The lights went out, but so did the heat guns. So when they all went back on, it was like nothing happened. I didn't even need to do a cross frame. It was just a hard cut. You also may have noticed that there's some additional shots in the video that we didn't talk about at all yet. I made a gallium key by just 3D printing a random key I found on the internet and then making a mold out of that and casting the gallium in it. What's interesting about the key melt is that we actually melted it standing upright as opposed to sideways, so the drips didn't fall downwards. But to get that to work in the shot, we're gonna spin all of the lights 90 degrees as well. The bucket shot ended up being one of the jankiest, hard to get to work shots in the whole thing, but I think it still works. I made a bucket mold, but it kept falling over on the frying pan that I was trying to cook it on, so I had to put a stick in the top of it to keep it from falling over. And you can actually kind of see the stick in the shot, but don't worry about that. Even the shot of the gallium pool sliding up in behind me was done by putting the shot on a TV to get the actual reflections down on top of the liquid gallium there at the correct scale. And that whole floor is just the table, it's not the real floor. Also, adding more motion to it, I think, was everything. It breathed so much more life into the shot, where previously it was just like the static statue, and now it actually feels like the Terminator. And I'm very happy about it. This is literally a shot I've been specifically thinking about for over 2 years. And I finally did it. So I'm just more than anything really pleased about this.
NVIDIA CEO Jensen.
Hello, Colin.
Hello.
We've discussed many films together on review at this point.
Yes.
But we have not talked about a single Canadian filmmaker. And
Really?
So today we're going to talk about the one Canadian filmmaker.
David Cronenberg.
David Cronenberg. We've never talked about a David Cronenberg movie on this channel ever.
I don't think we've even mentioned him.
Yeah, but in any of our
like
videos.
in passing, yeah. Which
Even
is
though
weird.
He's one of my favorite filmmakers.
He's Toronto's favorite son. This is so bizarre. And yeah, Mike said you were interested in doing The Fly, and I was like, oh shit, yeah.
That's one of those ones
seems
people
so
are going to see this
weird.
video in their feed, and they're going to say they haven't done that yet. I feel like they've already talked about The Fly.
It's so strange, yeah. It kind of goes hand in hand with like The Thing. It reminds me of like anytime like somebody says that remakes are shitty and lazy and terrible, and it's always two movies that come up. It's The Thing and then The Fly.
Yeah.
And those are the two greatest examples of like remakes done right, I think.
Yeah, and they're lumped together too because they're both 80s remakes of 50s. I think they're both 50s,
Yeah,
right?
I think so, yeah.
50s sci-fi. With some of the most amazing and disgusting special effects you'll ever see.
Yeah, oh god,
That's
this
The
movie.
Thing, which we've discussed The Thing. You and I did
Yep.
The Thing.
Uh-huh.
And so now we're here to talk about The Fly.
Yeah.
Shot in Toronto.
Yes, like
There's the CN Tower.
that's like most of his films, I think.
Yeah, Eastern Promises obviously was shot wherever.
Yeah, I want to say probably London. I think that might have been the first where he shot outside of Toronto. I don't know. Like I'm not that familiar with David Cronenberg.
Cronenberg did Eastern Promises? Oh my god. I had no idea Cronenberg directed that. It's a good movie. I had no fucking clue it was Cronenberg. That's crazy.
Cronenberg's sort of
This is a good flick, by the way. If you you want to see a good gangster flick, watch Eastern Promises.
early stuff.
Oh my God, that's his best stuff.
I know, but I think The Fly, like I was in, I don't know, grade school when that came out, and everyone was really excited to see it, and that was like, that and The Thing were like the two movies that, you know, I really wanted to watch on VHS when they came out. But
Those are the
yeah.
movies your friends dare you to watch.
Yeah,
I
they're
dare
like-
you to sit through this without puking.
Oh, it was amazing. Yeah, I loved it.
The Fly, I think, is my favorite David Cronenberg movie, and I feel like that's a real like basic bitch pick, but I don't care.
It was probably the first one that I saw.
That might contribute to it, but it's also like, I mean, he's obviously made movies that are more like complex and challenging with stuff like Naked Lunch or Videodrome, where you really have to kind of work out what the hell's happening.
I can think of at least 2 things wrong with that title.
And I think there's a real simplicity to this movie that is its biggest strength. It's so streamlined and so stripped down.
It is like an hour and 35 minutes, and that would
wasted moment.
That would not happen this day. Like, modern filmmakers have to learn how to be efficient with stuff. There's no reason why fucking like a Deadpool or a comedy should be like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Well, you gotta leave in all the funny banter. All the
just
funny
like the bloat. It's why I always love when it's like Halloween and we go back and watch, when it's like October, and you go back and rewatch like old 80s horror movies. They're all like 79 minutes. It's like, wow, it's amazing.
But this one in particular feels shorter than it is. It's like, a little over 90 minutes, but it is so compact and efficient and like intimate that it just flies by. No pun intended. But like, I mean, the opening right off the bat, it starts mid-conversation between our 2 main characters.
What am I working on? I'm working on something that'll change the world and human life as we know it.
Change it a lot or just a bit? You'll have to be more specific.
You don't even see their like introduction. It's just like they're already into it. And then
I was thinking about that, like a modern movie, you'd have like 3, 4, 5 scenes before they even get there.
You'd have an intro, like a prologue with him like doing experiments or something, and then blah, blah, blah.
The introductory scene between her and her boss, who they have a history that you learn throughout the movie, just gradually, like it's not, but in another movie, it would be, you'd have that scene where he's telling her that she has to cover the science convention. Oh, I want to do real stories. There's none of that.
It would be like 30 to 45 minutes before you met, they met and like started talking. And this is so right off the bat, it's great. But the whole movie's like that. And you said like intimate. It's crazy. There's only like 3 main characters really in this whole movie.
I've wondered if there's anyone's ever done like a stage production of it, because it feels very theatrical. Because most of it just takes place on one set.
I know there's an opera.
Oh, okay, that makes even more sense.
Howard Shore made an opera. Apparently, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any clips or anything like that. But it seems like you could do that because it's really just the one set with the odd, like in John Getz's office or something like that. That's the only time.
Yeah, they go to a couple places, but you could rewrite that where the whole thing
for
is
sure,
basically, or maybe 2 sets. But I guess that makes sense that it would be turned into an opera because Howard Shore did the opera version.
Yeah,
because the score is very bombastic in a way that actually works despite the movie being so simple.
It's a weird tone. Like it doesn't seem to fit the movie, but then it does. Like it's very weird. I was getting shades of RoboCop in the end credits.
Yeah, that's I think what works so well about it is like, it's funny in rewatching it gets to the end credits. It has like the most tragic, sad ending of all time.
And like it kind of fades out.
Fades out just immediately. No like final scene to kind of like calm you down. It's just like, he's fucked. Everyone's miserable. We're done.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to the credits, and the cast list is like 12 people. And then that's it.
It's crazy. Which is kind of amazing. I mean, it works. It's just so taut, and there's not like an ounce of flab, I think, anywhere on this.
And the basic story, I guess if anyone hasn't seen it, it's funny, it has one of the most, it's David Cronenberg's probably most like famous movie. It has one of the most famous taglines of all time.
I'm afraid!
Don't be afraid!
No, be afraid. Be very afraid.
Which is, be afraid, be very afraid. It's a line of the movie, and it sounds corny in the movie just because you've heard it so many times.
Yeah.
But an alternate tagline for the movie that I thought of is, he just wanted to get laid.
It's true.
That's the catalyst for the whole story.
Oh, that charmer.
Yeah, because it starts at that science convention, and he's Jeff Goldblum is Seth Brundle. He's an awkward, nerdy scientist man.
Okay, these names. We have to talk about the character names. It's not mentioned very much in the script, but Seth Brundle is the only time you kind of hear his full name. But like,
well, then they start calling it once he starts transforming into the Fly. He's Brundle Fly. Yeah.
How does Brundle Fly eat?
You have Gina Davis playing Veronica Quaife. And then
I didn't even know she had a last name.
Yeah, well,
I guess it's just in the credits.
Everyone calls her Ronnie in the thing. So it's Veronica Quaife, and then John Getz plays Stathis Borans.
Yes.
It's just like
Staph sounds like staph infection.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds
maybe
gross.
You get grundle queef and like staph infection. That's very Cronenberg. I don't know if that was intentional, but it probably is.
But yeah, so the movie starts like with him at the science convention. She's a journalist that's trying to find a story at this
for Particle magazine.
Her boss is her ex-boyfriend, so there's a little like love triangle thing going on.
But he's kind of a skis bag.
Oh yeah. Oh, we'll talk about Staph as more. But yeah, so then he invites Seth Brundle invites Ronnie to his lab, not for a story, but because he thinks he'll impress her with his teleportation pods.
Because he doesn't even know she's a journalist.
He doesn't. When he finds out, he's surprised that she's here to try and write a story, and then he's of course weirded out because there's no information about what he's doing at all. And that's sort of the kickoff to the whole movie. They form a relationship, and there's some drama and tension because her ex-boyfriend is involved in the situation, and it's very, like I said, intimate. And I think like it's one of my favorite movies, but I don't watch it very often because everyone talks about like the effects, and we'll talk about how great and disgusting all the effects are. But the thing that always sticks with me is how just like sad the movie is.
It is really sad.
It's so profoundly sad.
Yeah, especially the last act.
Yeah, well, the entire middle of it, because he teleports and there's a fly in the chamber with him, and so they get genetically fused. So the bulk of the movie is, if you strip away like the sci-fi elements, it's basically just like someone watching someone they love get sick and just like deteriorate
die
in front
horribly.
of them. Yeah, it's obviously it's in the 80s, so you could say it's a metaphor for like AIDS. But I always think of it more as like cancer, but really anything.
Yeah.
All those scenes where she comes to visit him and he's just getting like worse and worse. He's using like crutches to walk and. The drama of it all, like Gina Davis's performance is so great. She really sells it as like a believable situation, even though
for sure.
Some of the visuals are kind of absurd and weird, but she just completely sells the whole thing.
Yeah, she kind of grounds it, especially, there was that scene, I think, later in the movie where he's like vomiting. He starts vomiting to dissolve the food and stuff, and he's got all these like stains on his shirt of just like, it looks like jizz or something.
Yeah, well, that's
really
the grossest
gross.
part of the entire movie.
And she gives him that big hug.
She gives him a hug, and you're like, oh
God. Do you think this kind of like, I know like Videodrome kind of gave Cronenberg the body horror kind of label, but I think this movie may have like...
I mean, all of his early movies. His first movie is Shivers.
Okay, I'm kind of oblivious to like anything past. I only recently saw Scanners. I've seen nothing before that. I haven't seen The Brood or
The Brood, Shivers.
Rabid.
They're all, and that's why I like Cronenberg so much. Especially now, like people talk about like what's scary, like Longlegs coming out.
Yeah,
people are like, oh, it's not even scary. It's like, well, ideas are scary.
It's
like,
very subjective.
Yeah, it's not jump scare scary like a Conjuring movie or something, but it's got ideas that stick, and that's why I like Cronenberg so much, because very few filmmakers tap into my specific fears, and all of those, especially his early movies, are all about like the internal horrors.
Yeah.
The how disgusting and unpredictable the human body is. Where you can just one day wake up and you just have cancer for no reason.
Or
it just happens.
Or your dick falls off. you put it in a medicine cabinet.
Or you turn into a brundlefly and start vomiting on your donuts.
That's disgusting.
But yeah, so that's why, like Shivers was his first movie, and an alternate title for that, I think the original title for it was It Came From Within. So like even from the beginning, he's talking about like body horror and the grossness of what's going on that you can't see or can't predict and have no control over.
I'm gonna have to like watch those, I think, because
they're all good.
It's really weird. It's like I started with The Fly. That was the first one that I saw, and then The Dead Zone, I think, and those were like his two most popular.
Those are like his first, big studio movies.
Yeah, exactly. And then only recently, I think in the past 5 years, I went and saw Videodrome. I didn't go and see it. I just rented it, but.
You went to your couch and saw it.
Yeah, and then Scanners, I think last year or something like that. So it's kind of interesting going back and like seeing, but I think like Videodrome was where, I don't know, it's sort of like everything just coalesced, and it was like the David Cronenberg you kind of know going forward.
Body horror, but there's also really surreal visuals.
Yeah.
That's something I want to play for you.
And this movie's more straightforward than something like Videodrome, but it does the visuals are so weird that they're kind of surreal. Like once he starts like, you know, climbing on the walls and dissolving people's body parts with his vomit.
How does Brundlefly eat? That's disgusting.
We have to talk about the practical effects in this movie, and it's Chris Wallace who did Gremlins.
Yes, yeah.
He created the Gremlins, and he worked on a bunch of other stuff. I think Return of the Jedi, he was like a creature consultant, and then Dragon Slayer, he worked on Arachnophobia. But his whole team that he had on this, they had the team in the credits, and two guys, Jim Isaac was one of the puppeteers, and Kelly
the
Lukowski,
director of Mike's favorite movie, Jason X.
Jason X. Which I worked on. So I actually worked with Jim, terrific guy, very, very nice guy. He was the director of Jason X. Kelly Lukowski was another guy on the puppeteer team, was the visual effects supervisor on Jason X.
Oh, okay.
So they were kind of like a team. And they had worked on...
Because that whole movie was all Canada too, right?
Oh
That's
yeah, it was shot in Toronto.
Movie, yeah.
But then we had worked with them previously on Existence. On those,
Wait, did you work on Existence?
No, it was just the company that I worked for. I had started right after Existence was finished. They had done the little like two-headed lizard thing.
Oh yeah.
So we had the puppet of that in the office. It was really cool. So I think Jim or Kelly had like puppeteered that or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really neat. I remember we were like bidding on, so I worked at a previous company when Existence was being made. So everybody was kind of bidding on it. And I left that company to go to the one that actually did Existence. And at the time, I remember his producer came in, David Cronenberg's producer, and he was like, you know, if there's any digital effects, it has to look real because David can't be, his name can't be associated with CGI.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. This is like kind of early days, you know.
Well, I mean, he was like one of those practical effect guys. Like some of the, so you've never seen Naked Lunch?
I have. I saw that in the theater.
Yeah, some of the like the big bug creatures and that.
Mugwumps or whatever.
Yeah.
Hello, Bill. What's up?
Yeah, Existence is kind of the last Cronen before he kind of moved away from strictly like body horror stuff.
Yeah.
Then he started, like Eastern Promises.
Eastern Promises. It was kind of like
History of Violence.
This is like a normal movie.
Yeah, and they're good movies. I prefer the earlier like body horror stuff just because that's the kind of thing that resonates more with me. But he's come back with Crimes of the Future.
Yeah, I haven't
There's
seen
definitely
that.
more in that. It doesn't like completely come together as a narrative, but there's so many interesting and weird ideas in it.
Which
it
is
feels
like a
very
remake of a movie that he did?
No,
Or was
he
it
did
a
a short
short?
film that was also called Crimes of the Future.
Okay.
But it has no connection other than the
Oh,
title.
okay.
But yeah, with the effects, I guess we'll go into that because that's the bulk of the movie. It's a showcase for some of the most. I remember watching Joe Bob Briggs when I was little. It still lives in my mind. He aired this movie. It might have been the first time I saw it, and he described it as stuff to gross your sister out with.
Yeah.
And that's the movie.
It goes from just your basic pizza face look there at the beginning, then he gets that kind of cream of wheat cancer face. So great movie to gross your sister out with, isn't it?
But it has this like, unlike The Thing, where you're just like marveling at the effects and how amazing and like creative and weird they are. Like I said, this movie has so much sadness to it that it kind of undercuts any sort of like, oh, it's so gross, where I'm just like sad and depressed when like his ear falls off.
Yeah.
And just seeing him like slowly lose his humanity.
That's not too terrible, is it? Most people would give anything to be turned into something else.
Turned into what?
What do you think, a fly? Am I becoming a 185-pound fly?
Well, the makeup itself is great because we see so many like iterations of it. It gets worse and worse. And at no point does he look like a fly until the very end.
Yeah.
So you're like, how is this gonna come together? And then his face just kind of falls off.
Yeah. Or
But you see these like weird lumps on his head. I know there was like an early design where the eyes would basically start on the back of the head and they would kind of move forward. And they didn't end up going with that, but it still has like where these lumps are, where it's like, oh, those are the fly eyes, like under his skin forming.
It's really gross.
It's
You know,
really
he has
disgusting.
greasy hair, and then like, you know, yeah, she kind of like
skin.
She's like pushes him away, and then his whole jaw comes off, and so it's like more literal. But up to that point, like thinking as an actor, like being in full body makeup, that'd be a fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
I can only imagine like just getting facial makeup is probably just enough. Like that would be hell on its own, and then having to like be in full body makeup for like, I don't know, the whole day.
Yeah, he does have one. I don't know. The delivery of it is funny when he's climbing on the wall and he lifts up his shirt and he's like, "What's this?"
Oh, look at this. What's this? I don't know.
he's like, he reaches a point of acceptance where he's just sort of like amused by how horrific all the things that are happening to his body
It's
are.
like a great scene, yeah. And then he does that like gymnastic scene. That's sort of at the beginning when he like feels like he's Superman at that point.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny. Then the gymnast like suddenly gets like 2 feet shorter. when he's
and has a weird wig on.
It's Jim Cotta guy.
It's Jim Cotta.
That'd be amazing. But he's terrific. I think like the physicality of him, like, you know, he starts to get really like kind of twitchy and like
without ever being like too over the top.
Yeah,
He never goes too big with it. Where it's like even at the end when he has basically become a monster and he's like stealing her from the hospital and dragging her back to the lab. Where it's like you get the sense that he almost feels bad about doing this, but it's like the only option he can think of to like hold on to any sort of humanity.
The baby might be all that's left of the real me. Please don't kill me.
But I think, yeah, it's like because you follow his character throughout the sort of degradation, it's not like the thing where it's like, you know, 15 characters and you really don't get to know most of them a lot, you know? This is just really sad. And he's kind of like documenting what's happening to him, like filming it and stuff. So it's just sort of adds to that. And I think by the end, like after he's fused with the telepod, it's just like, oh my God, like this is just...
Well, that's another, and then it does, you know, he forms a romance with Gina Davis and all those early, like we were talking about the efficiency of the movie, it happens pretty quickly, but you totally buy it because their chemistry is so good. I know they were like together in real life.
Yeah.
So all those early scenes,
you can kind of see it. Is there ever like a more perfectly matched couple than like the two of them? They're both like, I don't know, weird and tall and gangly. He's so charming. It's just like, whatever.
But he's so oblivious too. Like that's what's great about his character. And it's funny because it's a very Jeff Goldblum performance. He's got his weird mannerisms that everybody kind of, you know, memes on and jokes about. And I was thinking about that in relation to, he's a scientist in this, he's a scientist in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Very similar, like the way he delivers his lines and stuff.
Yeah.
But in Jurassic Park, he comes across so cool.
Yeah.
And in this, he comes across so awkward and nerdy, but it's a very similar performance.
It is
But he
weird.
somehow like makes both of them work.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just like how like focused he is on the work in this one, whereas like, I don't know, Ian Malcolm is like this rock star, you know what I mean? He has like shirt undone, he's like dresses like a rock star. I think I told you this story where I met him in Vancouver. So I was in a hotel in Vancouver, and then I was going to the elevator, and then Jeff Goldblum was there waiting for the elevator, and he's very, very tall. He's like 6'4" or 5" or something,
Right.
and he had this like long red leather trench coat and these like biker boots on and sunglasses, and he looked like a fucking rock star. Like, you're just like, who is this person? And you're like, oh my God, it's Jeff Goldblum. And then he like held the elevator for me, and then we both went in, and then more and more people kept coming into the elevator, and he was getting like freaked out. He was like, oh, no, no, no.
Oh, no, 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 no.
No, no, no. Oh, no, no. And
Like
then
out loud he was saying
Out loud,
these
he's like,
things?
no, 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 no. And then he got up and he's like, excuse me. And he like left the elevator.
Oh my God.
And then some lady was like, was that the fly?
I've come here to say one magic word to you.
Yeah?
Cheeseburger.
But yeah, their relationship forms pretty quickly, but believably.
For sure.
And I like his little like awkward moments, like because he's so unnatural in dealing with other people. When he's just like, is this a romance we're having? Is that what this is?
Is this a romance we're having? Is that what it is?
Yeah, could be a romance.
He's
like
not
he
used to it.
understands it intellectually, but it can't verbalize it in any sort of like romantic way.
Yeah.
But then Gina Davis's boss,
John Getz.
Stathis Borins?
Stathis Borins
is his name. What's fascinating about him, he's such a sleazebag early
Yeah.
on. He's that like classic like 80s yuppie. If he were younger, he'd be played by like James Spader.
Yeah, I could see, and then if he was a bit older, it'd be Ron Silver.
Yeah, exactly. He's that character.
That skis bag.
I followed you. You stayed with Brundle all night. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think he'd look great in this. Don't you?
But what's interesting is that as unlikable as he is for most of the movie,
Yeah.
once shit gets real, once he sees like the footage of what's happening to Seth Brundle,
Yeah.
he's watching video of it that Gina Davis took, and then right after that, Gina Davis finds out she's pregnant. Like, he has such a character shift that you don't usually get in this type of movie, where he becomes like completely like sympathetic towards her and supportive of her and like helps her out as much as he can.
And you get the feeling that maybe it's not like, you know, if you were more cynical, you could say, oh, he's just doing it to like get back with her or something like that, but it doesn't feel like that.
No, there's nothing in the movie like that.
Yeah, when he feels it's like real.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
She's pregnant and she wants to have an abortion.
In the middle of the night?
We have good reason to think that this child will be deformed.
But yeah, they go to the doctor in the middle of the night. Yeah. It's like, why do you want the abortion? It's, we have reason to believe that the child will be deformed. Why do you think this?
That's the TLDR version.
The
We don't want to
father
explain.
is
He's a fly
deformed.
man. You don't want to explain that.
Yeah, when it's like the stakes are real, he kind of like changes modes. And like in another type of movie, you'd be rooting for him to die at the end, sort of thing.
Right, but yeah, he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
And it's rare to see a movie like this where that type of character takes a turn.
They have the funniest line, I think, in this scene where she's like, I'm finally onto something big.
Don't you get it? I am finally onto something that's big, huge.
Yeah? What? His cock?
Now, since we're talking about John Getz, we'll bring up briefly, I haven't seen it in a very long time, but they made The Fly 2.
Yes.
The only actor it's directed by Chris Walas, who did the effects on the first movie.
No shit.
Yeah. That's why he didn't do the effects for Gremlins 2, because he was busy directing The Fly 2.
Wow.
But yeah, no one, Cronenberg didn't come back,
Yeah.
so Jeff Goldblum, well, he couldn't really come back unless you have him as like a ghost or something. But
Ghost Goldblum.
But yeah, Gina Davis didn't come back. So the one actor they could get back from the first movie is John Getz. He has one scene, and he's like completely lost his mind from the first movie. But because they knew no one would recognize him without a beard, they like glued on this shitty fake beard. And I think he just has like little stumps because his arm is, been melted off. And yeah, it's like a really like unintentionally funny scene because he's overacting. I think he kind of knows like the movie's not up to the caliber of the first one.
Dissolved my hand and my foot with fly vomit. I had no love for the man. He bugged me.
Okay, but we have to talk about the producer of this movie.
Oh yeah,
Mel Brooks.
Maybe we shouldn't, because the minute we mention Mel Brooks, he's in his 90s now.
Yeah.
No. In a week, he's not going to be around any longer.
When Stuart Kornfeld came to me and said, we're at Fox, and Fox has the rights to The Fly, and we should remake The Fly. And I said, you're stupid.
But I think Cronenberg had talked to him about doing a sequel, and Cronenberg had some more interesting ideas, I guess. And Mel Brooks is like, a sequel, you just got to do the same, but more.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I'm out, sorry.
It's a prime example of especially like that era of sequels where it's like they kind of took all the wrong lessons from the first movie.
Yes.
Like it's gross and it's mean-spirited, so we'll amp that up.
Yeah, it's really mean-spirited, the second one.
There's like a mutant dog.
Oh, that dog is,
and they kill the dog in the movie, and it's just a lot like gorier.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun in like a schlocky way.
It is.
It doesn't have that like...
It doesn't have the weight, the emotional weight, I think.
But that's more like there's lots of great gross out gags in the first movie. It feels like the second movie was like built around that type of stuff.
It's like that's what'll get people in seats.
Yeah, where it doesn't have that like shock element that the original movie has, because you do kind of connect and care about these characters.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Mel Brooks, he produced this movie.
Yeah.
He produced The Elephant Man.
Yes.
So in addition to, and I know when Mel Brooks passes away, everyone's going to be talking about Blazing Saddles and all of his, great comedies. But I think it's important to point out how much he propped up two of the best and most interesting filmmakers of all time.
And didn't want his name on them because it just looks weird. He said it would just throw people off if they saw Mel Brooks in the credits.
Yeah, they just associate it with comedy.
Yeah,
or
it's just
something.
at the very end. It's like a Brooks film production or something. And you're like, oh shit, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he met David Lynch through, I don't know if it's the writer or the producer of this. They introduced him to him or something like
Probably
that.
the producer.
Yeah,
because I
it might
know
have
the original script, the original version of this movie, it had a different director.
Oh, some British guy.
Yeah, and I want to say he had like a family tragedy and had to leave.
Yeah, but I think David Cronenberg rewrote everything. He said there's only one line from the original script in it, but then he fought for the guy to have a co-writer credit.
Oh, okay.
Just whatever. He just said like the script wouldn't exist without like his original sort of thing.
Yeah. Oh, so much of the dialogue is very like you can tell it's Cronenberg. Like it's not somebody else's words. Like all the explanation, it's so great too. Like when he's explaining how. He hasn't figured out how to make like humans or whatever, or living creatures.
Flesh.
He cuts a steak in half, puts one half of it in the telepod, and she says, it tastes funny.
Funny how?
It tastes synthetic.
It's like just a simple way of explaining what is going on because he hasn't taught he hasn't taught the computer about the poetry of the steak.
But it doesn't, not yet. I haven't taught the computer to be made crazy by the flesh.
But it's a great way of explaining it because you like understand it and it isn't just like tech gobbledygook.
Yeah, exactly.
That a lot more modern movies would do. Just like, oh, well, I got to do this and like that.
Or you just kind of brush over it.
You just brush it over. It's not important and you get the concept. It's very like simple to understand, I think.
And something is getting lost in the translation.
Me. I'm lost.
There's one moment in a movie that I keep talking about the kind of tone of it, how it feels so sad, but there's one moment that feels a little too silly for the rest of the movie, which is when she's at the hospital about to have the abortion, and Jeff Goldblum just jumps through the window, breaks the wall like the Kool-Aid Man.
It feels like Phantom of the Opera or something.
I was thinking of like classic Universal monsters, like when he's up on the top of his building watching them get in the car to leave.
And then they have the conversation and he's kind of learning that she's going to have an abortion.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh.
And that's when it has that kind of, almost like operatic element in the Howard
like
Shore score.
Dark Man
really
or something.
Yeah.
Like watching from the rooftops.
Yeah.
Now there's the first test. It's sort of like he sets it up saying to Gina Davis that it can only do inanimate objects. Like he can't do anything organic or living yet. And at one point he like tests out this baboon teleport. I mean, why would he even try it if he knows that it can't do? And first of all, where's he getting baboons from?
You see, there's in the background of a few shots, you see like crates of previous baboons.
Oh, for God's sake!
I think it's one part when he's having an argument with Gina Davis. She's like about to leave, and if you pay attention to the set deck,
it looks like a cat carrier, but
it's like a giant baboon carrier.
Yeah.
There's a couple of
these
them
things?
From Bartok Industries, the company he works for.
Okay, all right.
Which is a nice detail when they talk early on. Like he's very like humble with the way he talks about all this stuff. Where he's like, I'm basically like a middle manager. Like I tell one person to make this, one person to make that.
He just puts it together.
I just put it together.
So nobody knows what the actual project is that he's working on. But I guess he's funded by Bartok Industries, but they're never mentioned again, which is kind of like...
No, they go into it more, Bartok Industries in the second movie.
Right, okay.
Kind of like, I don't know, like Weyland-Yutani and Aliens, where it's just this background like corporation.
I like that. It's sort of like mentioned and it's not important, but I think like we're talking about modern movies, if this was redone, they would be like a big part of it. They would be all over this fucking movie.
So he does these experiments on baboons, which leads to one of the most horrific things you'll ever see, where the baboon gets turned inside out.
Well, what happens when you try to teleport living things?
Not while we're eating.
Can't be worse than this.
This is grosser than I remember. Like, it's so disgusting.
Well, it's so much worse, too, because it's still alive, and it's, like, writhing around. And...
There's, like, the good reveal. I like how they kind of use the smoke to kind of hide what's in the telepod, you know, at first. You just sort of see the gradual, it spills out, and it's revealed, and you kind of hear, like, the like noises.
Squishy noises.
Oh, and you feel so awful for it.
But the baboon, there's another one that he tests that works later.
I did not know this.
And it's a famous movie baboon named Typhoon, who's a best of the worst legend because he's in 3, not just 1, not 2, but 3 best of the worst movies.
Really? Oh, Treasure of the... No, wait.
He was in he was the monkey driving the tank in Order of the Black Eagle.
Okay, yeah, right.
And then the other movie in that franchise was Unmasking the Idol. But then, most famously, of course, he is the titular role of Shakma.
Shocking audiences everywhere.
Yeah, the experiment, he gets to work the second time. And that's another thing, like with the human aspect of it, where what motivates him to actually try it on himself. He's just like drunk and...
Gina Davis like takes off. She has to do something. He's like jealous that
he gets jealous of her ex-boyfriend. He thinks that maybe they're still involved.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like out of like drunk jealousy, he tests the telepod on himself, and that's what kicks off the whole story.
Yeah.
But that adds, such a like a, I don't know, such a like a human touch to it.
Yeah. Good thing he didn't have it with like a whiskey bottle or something. Get fused with that.
Like the whiskey bottle was in the telepod with him. Oh my
just
lord!
His hand is like a whiskey bottle.
Well, then he's just like permanently drunk. He comes out, he's in a constant state of drunk. That is another thing. Before he starts to like get sick and deteriorate, he feels like revived. Like, he says it's rejuvenated him.
Fly strength.
Yeah, but then he starts to get like too much energy, and there's a middle part of the movie where it almost feels like I was saying, a lot of it is like Gina Davis is reacting to him like you would with like, you know, someone you love who has cancer or something.
Yeah.
But the middle part of the movie is almost more like dealing with somebody who has like an addiction problem.
I told you I'm scared to do it. What do I have to say? I'm not gonna do it.
You're a fucking drag, you know that?
Yeah, and he's very like angry and
his emotions are out of control. He's I love that scene in the cafe.
Oh, and
he's just pouring so much sugar. I always think of like his weird delivery when he's like trying to get the waiter to come over. And he's like, "Waiter, Jesus Christ,
praise God,
let's go, move, catch me if you can, waiter, Jesus Christ."
He kind of misunderstands. He thinks that the pod has like rejuvenated him somehow. He doesn't understand what's going on, so he thinks it's like this magical thing where he just like breaks like his.
But he has these moments where he just lashes out at her, or he's like, "Would a sick man be able to do this?" And he's just like punching the wooden beam on the wall. Like all those things feel very like out of control. Like you're in a relationship with someone who's an addict and you don't know what to do.
So you just like take off. You,
like, so much of the movie hinges on Gina Davis's performance.
Yeah. And it sort of drives him. He goes out on his own. He's like, I'm gonna find another woman. So he like goes out to this sleazy bar. He's walking down like Yonge Street. Goes to this like sleazy bar and like gets into an arm wrestling match with this guy. Now this is I didn't know this, but the guy whose arm that he breaks, he is like a champion heavyweight Canadian boxer, George Chuvalo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if he did much before this or after it.
I just think it's crazy that, because he says, you know, if I beat you in this arm wrestling match, your lady comes home with me, fucking like rips the bone out of his arm.
Oh, that's
and
so
the lady's
gross.
just like, let's go to another bar before we go back to your place. Like, what?
Okay.
You run away in horror.
You're hot.
Let's go back to my place.
Yeah, well, okay.
I love that whole set. That's like fantastic.
Yeah.
But like the exterior, so I'm like noticing a lot of Toronto locations in this. In this location, when she's in the particle headquarters, like in John Getz's office during the daytime, and their first thing. So behind her, outside, down below, there's like this red brick building with like a mural on it. And that's like a famous park in Toronto called Birksey Park. So it's like this beautiful like dog park, with this famous mural. And like I actually recently shot a commercial there and we had to remove the mural because it was too iconic, I guess, or something. But they have this really cool like fountain in the middle of the park. It's for dogs, and they have all these dog sculptures looking up at the fountain.
Do they have any, like here in Milwaukee, we have the bronze fawns. Is there anywhere in Toronto that has like Jeff Goldblum, Seth Brundle fly?
The bronze fly. They should have like the bronze Cronenberg. I'm surprised they don't.
He's the way you associate like, I don't know, John Waters with Baltimore.
Yeah.
I associate Cronenberg with Toronto.
Yeah, this is fun picking up. And then his the exterior of his lab is actually this place called Liberty Village, which is now like built up. So all the kind of rundown warehouses.
Oh, okay.
And it's actually the same location in the very first police academy. At the end, where they're like fighting the guy on the rooftop, and there's like the big shootout. That's like the same location.
Oh, that's funny.
And I also think that Back in Action was shot there when they're driving the cars around those old like warehouse buildings and stuff.
Oh, that kind of mid-movie car chase scene. Okay.
I think that's around the same location. One good thing I want to single out was the production design. Especially like the telepod design of that.
Oh yeah,
they look fantastic.
Well, they look believable.
Yeah,
they don't look like super like crazy sci-fi movie.
Just a little bit, you know what I mean? It's like they're maybe a little too slick or something like that. But the design is like iconic. Like they look so cool.
And it's a great touch too when he's first trying to like impress Gina Davis. And he mentions, he's like, well, this is the original one. It was like the
prototype.
The prototype.
It's a little clunky.
It's a little clunky. So, but it establishes it as just like, oh, this is the first version he made. But then it plays an important part of the story later on.
But it doesn't have the glass door for like good reason. Just as far as like revealing what's happening.
But yeah, so many little touches like that where it's introducing things that'll pay off later in a way that feels really like natural, where you're not thinking about it.
Yeah, the computer he uses too is like really. I remember being back in high school, like rewatching this and like, oh man, the graphics on that computer are amazing. What resolution do you think those are? But when my very first job in the VFX industry was working on RoboCop, the TV series that was shot in Toronto, and my boss, Lee Wilson, VFX supervisor, had worked on The Fly and a bunch of Cronenberg movies. So he was the computer graphics display supervisor for The Fly. So I guess he handled all the graphics and stuff like that. But they're used to great effect as far as like the reveal. There's that one moment where, you know, he kind of realizes, oh shit, there were like two things in the telepod. And then it's like, what was the second thing? And then they kind of start electron microscope kind of like level, and then it like keeps zooming out. And you sort of like see bits of the Fly, and then it's gradually revealed that it's like the Fly. But like that whole interface is really cool.
Yeah, I noticed on this rewatch, the like the text that appears on screen, I'd never noticed it before, but in like clear HD, there's some slight jitter to it where it's like, oh, this is like a separate element, like a
it's like an optical element
that was added in after the fact. So that's something I never would have noticed before.
Yeah, it's like certain little things. I remember when John Getz is getting his hand burned off, or melted. That was like done the same way as like Raiders of the Lost Ark, like the face melt. It was like a heat gun or something, and it was shot in multiple passes. But you can see it's sort of like shaking like this throughout the whole thing, and it's like it's actually like an optical composite. So they shot like a time lapse of that and like kind of merged a few takes together, and then I guess composited over like the background. But if you watch that again, you can kind of see this like shake, and I guess it's supposed to be him like, you know, shaking.
So it's
like
not
that.
just a static mannequin arm or whatever. It's a little clunky. That's like one of the less good effects of the movie.
No, I think it's like it's still effective because of his like performance and stuff.
Sure.
And especially when the foot gets dissolved, and it's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
This computer, by the way, the most ergonomically horrific like thing I've ever seen. He's like, I got to teach it. He's programming, but he's like sitting on this bar stool, and it's like the computer keyboard is like angled like that, and he's just like typing like this. It's like, oh my god.
It's also the first at the time. It was probably, I'm sure, like a crazy sci-fi concept, but where he's just like vocalizing to the computer and telling it to do things.
Brundle, Seth.
Brundle, Seth.
Now it's so common, but
even now it kind of sucks.
But it does work into the story. Like he talks to the computer and it does things on his command. But then as he's turning more and more into the Fly, like his voice deteriorates and doesn't recognize him anymore.
Yeah, and then he's got to go to manual input, which is it's a great way of like showing his sort of like degradation.
That's when the third act, when he's basically lost all humanity.
You go there. We come apart. And we come together there.
There's a lot of good things, like nice reveals through using the computer interface, and especially at the end when John Getz like shoots the connecting cable between like Gina Davis's pod, and then it like, you know, he kind of halfway breaks out of his telepod, and it kind of like merges him with the thing, and then it's just like the text on the screen. It's like fusion of Brundle and like telepod complete, and it's like you can't see anything because it's like the old janky one which doesn't have the glass, and it's just like your imagination just takes over, like, oh god, like what's that gonna look like? And it's just as bad as you think.
He comes out with just this door like sticking out of his abdomen.
He's kind of like trailing like the pipe and stuff. It's just so gross, but you feel so horrible for this thing at this point. Like, you know?
Well, that's like I said, like the like, you know, it's so sad. He's turned into this creature, and has Gina Davis convinces her to completely unspoken because he can't talk anymore. He's a Fly.
He kind of like takes the gun and like puts it
down and makes her pull the trigger, and then she's just like bawling her eyes out. Cut to credits.
Yeah,
like, we're done. He's dead.
Did you see the deleted scenes? Like there was a deleted ending.
I know there was an ending, which I'm glad they cut for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
One, because I think it's so like great to just end it on this like horrible note. Yeah. It's so tragic. But then also, there was the deleted ending where she's in bed with
The butterfly baby.
Yeah, she has a dream about like him being reborn as a butterfly or something.
Yeah, I think
But
it's
she's
supposed
in
to-
bed with John Getz, isn't she?
Yes.
So that kind of shows like they got back together, which I don't really like.
Yeah, John Getz. He gets his
John
ladies.
Getz,
John
Gina
gets his
Davis.
ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was weird. Yeah, so it's like this chrysalis or something, the butterfly baby. I guess it's a more hopeful ending or something, which I don't think it needs.
I don't think it.
It doesn't look very good.
Yeah, and also just like I don't know, like we were talking about the efficiency of the storytelling, where
Yeah,
it's like
you
he's
don't
dead,
need it.
we're out.
Yeah,
Like,
you don't need it, which is
And
great.
then you have that bombastic Howard Shore score come on, like yeah.
But there is like another deleted scene. Did you see that with like the baboon and the cat?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
so awful. I'm glad they cut that. It's
I think we get enough animal cruelty that the point gets made.
Yeah,
don't
he's
need that.
like full gone. He's like almost, the fly, and then he's like he merges like the cat and the baboon, and it's like this horrific like thing that like scurries off, and then he ends up like beating it to death, and it's just like it's so mean. Yeah, glad they cut it because it's like you want to feel sympathy for him, and it's like at that point he would have just been like.
Well, it's also does that come at a
irredeemable.
point where he's coming up with the idea because Ronnie's pregnant with his baby.
Yeah.
He thinks she's going to have an abortion, so he decides to fuse all three of them together into one like being.
Yeah, he kind of.
So is that kind of like his where that scene comes? Is that like when he's like testing out the idea?
I don't
of doing
know.
that?
I've only seen it just sort of. It's on whatever, I don't know, some like disc or something like that. But I've only seen it like without context, so I don't
okay.
know where it kind of came in.
It seems like it would probably be right around there. So
Yeah.
it's good because then like you're just imagining what would happen if all three of these, he's doing it out of
Yeah.
desperation, but if all three of them were fused together, like not having that visual of what would actually happen, I think makes it even scarier.
Yeah, it's very weird. They kind of go into that in The Fly too, and it kind of works out perfectly. No, there was a song for the end credits. I don't know if you saw the credit. It's at the very, very end where they usually have like the music credits, and it's like a Brian Ferry song called "Help Me" that he wrote for this movie, and that they were going to have over the end credits. And then when they heard it, it's like this is kind of inappropriate. Like let's just have the score play over it.
Is it called "Help Me" as a reference to the original The Fly? Because I know I saw the original The Fly, and this movie, I guess it's technically a remake, but it's so different. It's basically just scientist man turns into a fly.
It's more of
the
like
only-
a gradual
Yeah.
degradation, whereas like
You don't have a guy with a goofy fly head on.
he had the fly arm and the fly head.
But I saw the original one when I was a little kid,
Yeah.
and I remember like that ending really creeped me out. Where you
God.
got the little fly body with the human head. Help me! Like that's so like burned into my brain.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess that's a reference to that. He does say "help me" in this though.
Yeah, he does. He's like hugging Gina Davis, and he's like, "Help me."
Help me. Please. Please help me.
Haven't heard the song "Help Me" by Brian Ferry,
But it's still in the credits.
It's still in the credits, so maybe they, paid him for it, and we're going to use it, and it's just like, let's just pull it. But
That's
they still
like
have-
apparently the song "Maniac." He's a maniac.
Yeah.
It's used in, is that Footloose?
No, Flashdance.
Flashdance.
Yeah.
It's famous for that, but it was supposedly written for the movie Maniac. the disgusting Tom Savini effects slasher movie.
Are you kidding?
Supposedly. And they were like, this isn't appropriate for this movie. So then he just repurposed it for another movie.
Oh, that's
That's
funny.
the story. That's
Okay.
the lore. That's supposedly
I
a
choose
real
to
thing.
believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll have to listen to Brian Ferry.
It's like auto-tuned.
That's like the only thing I remember from that first one, the original.
Yeah, that and just the big goofy fly
The big
head.
goofy fly head.
I've seen all of them. I have a box set here with the original 3 and then the 2 80s ones. I've seen them all, but it's been a really long time.
Vincent Price is in that one.
He's in the first one, yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember anything about the sequels.
Yeah, what are there, 2 other ones?
The Fly, Curse of the Fly, Return of the Fly.
Return of the Curse of the Fly.
Return of the Curse of the Planet of the Apes of the Fly. Superfly.
Superfly.
That's of course my favorite Fly film.
But
this is
Flying Ryan.
Where is it?
Barfly.
I gotta finish this workout, and then instead of Elden Ring, we'll do some Dark Souls 3. Because Dark Souls 3 isn't open world. And I'll have a better idea what the hell I'm doing.
This is the worst Star Trek TV show I've ever seen. There wasn't one Andorian, Mike.
That looks like the Shirt Brothers shirt.
Shirt Brothers?
From, I Think You Should Leave.
What? I don't know any of the things you're talking.
Hello and welcome to Review. Today we're going to talk about Star Wars, a topic we've been avoiding talking about for 5 to 7 years now.
And it never goes away.
You know that meme, somehow Palpatine has returned? Do you know that?
Yes, I know that, yes.
I kept seeing things like somehow something has returned, right? Mm-hmm. It's a, you know this, Jay? Mm-hmm. It's a meme, right?
Yeah.
And then I saw a GIF with Oscar Isaac as Poe Dameron, and he said, and it had a quote, "Somehow Palpatine has returned," and I'm like, what is that from? And then I suddenly remembered that Star Wars Part 9, Revenge of Skywalkers, had Palpatine in it.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's what that means. Did he actually say somehow Palpatine has returned?
You know,
and then I was like, Palpatine returned in that. Oh, yeah.
It's in the opening crawl.
All I remember is they were riding horses over the outside of a Star Destroyer. That's all I remember.
Andor is very refreshing compared to that.
Okay, let's talk about Andor. We're here to talk about Andor, and we're here because I was like, I want to watch a new show I haven't watched.
Yeah.
I'm going to start something new, and then I kept seeing like people saying Andor was good. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I'll watch Andor.
And for the record, for somebody who just like stumbles upon this video like 5 years after we've released it, we have now made this, what, like a year after Andor released? How long ago did Andor actually come out?
I know Ahsoka is a thing. That came out somewhat recently.
Yeah. Was this before or after Obi-Wan?
Before? I don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know. We watched Obi-Wan. We talked about that. And everyone was like, if you want to watch something that's Star Wars, but not Star Wars at all, watch Andor. I'm like, what does that mean? Is that good?
It's kind of right. It's more. It's not. I don't know that it's not Star Wars at all. It's more just they're finally expanding upon the world of Star Wars. Which, if you're gonna make a immortal franchise that will never die, and you're gonna keep pumping out installments, this is the kind of world building Disney should have been doing 10 years ago.
I was gonna say this is the world building that the prequels should have been.
Yeah.
But I don't think George Lucas is smart enough to write dialogue this good.
In a darkened screening room, George Lucas is using a laser pointer to show the 45 computer animators who are working on his new Star Wars movie just how he wants a big battle scene to look.
I liked Andor a lot, and I really wanted to get your opinion and to talk to you about it because the Star Wars enigma is fascinating to me now. The sheer inconsistency of the shows and movies in terms of target audience and quality level is like astounding. I found a website that listed all the Star Wars products, not including books, comics, and video games.
Yeah.
In chronological order.
Chronological order, okay.
It starts off with The Young Jedi Adventures, the show for babies.
Yeah.
Followed by The Phantom Menace. So I guess Young Jedi Adventures, chronologically, would be when Jedis... Were there Jedis in The Phantom Menace? Yeah.
Yeah, there were Jedis in The Phantom Menace, yes.
Young Jedi Adventures would be young Jedis. Probably younglings running around with lightsabers. I don't know. But it's for babies.
Yeah.
Not The Phantom Menace. I don't know if The Phantom Menace was after they all got killed off or not. That's the Revenge of the Sith.
Yes, that's Revenge of the Sith.
There's 3 trilogies now. It's hard to keep track of this. Attack of the Clones follows Phantom Menace. Then in between that is the Clone Wars, the movie, then the Clone
cartoon
Wars
CGI
series.
movie, yeah.
Yeah, then the series, then Revenge of the Sith. Then we go to the Bad Batch, which is a CGI animated series. I don't know if it's for kids or grown-ups.
I assume it's for...
Next is Solo, the Solo movie, followed by the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show. Then we're back to kids with Rebels, then Andor, followed by Rogue One.
Well, yeah.
And Andor Season 2, I think, will be squeezed in between these two.
It would have to be. It's certainly not taking place after Rogue One.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it might make for an interesting series if it's just like, you know, like 10 hours and it's just a shot of like a smoldering corpse.
Pile of dust.
Pile of dust floating in space. Andor floats in space. That's just the description for every episode. Andor's corpse floats in space.
Andor's ashes get condensed into a kyber crystal. And he gets put inside of a lightsaber.
Now, does his soul possess the lightsaber?
It talks.
Yeah, yeah.
And it ends up on Young Jedi Adventures at some point, and the babies have it. This sucks. I just want to be dead. Okay, Rogue One is followed by A New Hope, followed by Empire, followed by Jedi. Then The Mandalorian, then the Book of Boba Fett. And I don't know how the Book of Boba Fett happens after Return of the Jedi, because Boba Fett fell into the Sarlacc pit monster and got eaten.
I'm sure there's an explanation.
He climbs out.
For how he climbs out of the Sarlacc pit.
He gained 70 pounds while floating around in that belly.
I mean,
I had to eat all of its stomach contents.
He had to eat his way out. Man.
Okay. And he has developed a taste for Sarlacc meat. I want to say I've heard from sources that in The Mandalorian we see Boba Fett climb out of the Sarlacc pit monster so that he could be in the Book of Boba Fett.
Whatever.
Then after the Book of Boba Fett is Ahsoka. So then after that is Resistance. I don't know what that is.
That's literally the first time I've heard of that one.
Then
is that released yet?
I don't know. The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, then Star Wars Visions. Boom, boom, boom. Let's talk about Andor.
Yeah.
What are your impressions?
It's enjoyable. I think it's very solid. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but it's very solid. I think it's excellent world building. And Cassian Andor is probably the least interesting character in the show. And it's probably even just a misnamed show. It should have just been called Star Wars Rebellion or something.
Or Star Wars Heroes. That's a lame name, but from what I gathered from it, it's the Empire and then people that are characters that are doing their own little bits to start to form the rebellion or be heroic against it themselves, all the way from Mon Mothma down to,
Cassian Andor.
Cassian Andor. And so they give basically all these characters equal screen time. Mon Mothma is of course a senator. She's very wealthy, but she has that, that sense that something is going very wrong.
Yeah.
And there's some injustice happening, and she's secretly working with Stellan Skarsgård, who is kind of a mystery character, but he has that great speech in one of the later episodes.
what have you given up speech?
Yes. Who's also working with a different kind of hero, the Imperial double agent or spy.
Yeah.
Who's risking his neck to send him information. Then you have all those characters that do the heist, even down Andor's mother, the little robot. I mean, everyone's doing their part.
Even the Imperial characters are good. Like, I really like the ISB lady, and even the ISB director guy, who just seems entirely reasonable and professional. He's just doing his job well.
That guy just screams Star Wars Imperial villain.
Yes!
He was born to play that role.
That's a bit of a stretch.
The inner workings of the Empire. And I like the idea of world building, although it's almost an impossible task because you're talking about how to form a galactic empire and the logistics of that. And in the first movie, Star Wars, it didn't matter.
It's a fairy. It's a fairy tale. People like to think Star Wars is science fiction. It's not.
No.
It's fantasy with space paint. It's a simple story. The hero defeats the evil emperor. He slays some dragons on the way. But
Hero's journey.
The world isn't important, but you're going to go on and do 50 years worth of additional material, and Cassian and Andor is the kind of shit we need. Now we need to flesh out this world.
Yeah, or do we? And see, that's like the contradiction or conundrum that I wanted to discuss with you, because that's what Lucas wanted to do with the prequels.
Yeah, but he did it badly.
I know. That's the thing, is like, I have a slightly, like, if my appreciation for the prequels just went up just a tick. Because after the original trilogy, which is a hero's journey, an adventure film, conquer the bad guy, simple fairy tale, what do you do?
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to tell the backstory, but I don't think he's a good enough writer.
It's like sketching with a pencil, and suddenly somebody gives you paint, and you have all these colors. It's like watching a painter. You just, you put colors, It's not done until it's done. That guy's a cyber character. He's not real. The guy that was jumping.
I've seen those movies. I know he wasn't a good enough writer to do that.
And
okay?
if you release something like Andor, Star Wars is back.
Over a month ago.
All right, get out your lightsabers.
You just may have noticed that Star Wars, the latest episode, opens nationally at midnight tonight.
The hype surrounding this movie has been overwhelming. Now the question is, will it deliver?
They're about to open the doors here in just a few minutes, and people are revved up.
Star Wars is back, everybody. And then Andor comes on the screen.
This is f***ing awesome.
Is that how you've been presenting yourself to the world? That would explain a great deal.
And it's like the most depressing, like miserable thing you've ever seen. That wouldn't work. So he wanted to tell the story of how the Empire came about, all while having a little kid and a cartoon rabbit and poopy jokes and a wacky adventure in it. It's like oil and water.
Yeah.
This is how you should have done.
past the first boss. play this game when I'm more awake. Can't even get past the first boss. No, I gotta play a little bit each day, and I'll get good eventually. Oh man, I think I should just I think I just call it for the night. I am tired. I just got done with that with exercising. I ate like 2 hours ago. I did some job hunting. Okay, let's chat for a bit.
On the prequels, but it's like a fork in the road. Do you go for space adventure, sci-fi fantasy about, you know, a guy saving the princess from the evil bad guy he has a galactic space empire, or do you make something like Game of Thrones where you have this really dark political intrigue and all this dialogue and this person's betraying this person's a spy, and because that's what Andor is. Mm-hmm. One is for adults, one is for children, and I guess, or the young at heart. Let's say that. The Star Wars.
Or the stupid.
Well, no, the original Star Wars trilogy isn't for stupid. It's for everybody.
I'm kidding.
But which way do you go with it? And I get maybe it's a good thing that the Star Wars franchise has so many facets, I guess, or age ranges. Like I'm a baby and I want to watch Baby Jedi Adventures. I'm a 48-year-old man and I want to watch the most depressing thing I've ever seen.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I'm a 48-year-old man and I want to watch Jedi Baby Adventures.
Oh, that too. And then it's like, okay, little Tommy's 8, and Tommy wants to watch some Star Wars. Let's put on Andor.
I liked anything space when I was a kid. I might have actually liked this when I was a kid, or at least some of the more exciting story arcs in this. Because there's like 3 or 4 separate mini movies in this.
Yeah, and that's what I liked, is that it changes up its tone quite a bit. Not the tone, but the locales and the scenarios. He's
a thief on like a planet that's controlled by a corporation, and it's not even really controlled by the Empire. It's controlled by like a corporation that operates within the Empire.
It starts off as a noirish murder mystery, then it goes to a heist movie, then it goes to a prison
escape movie.
Yeah, the opening. I think that's what grabbed me, was that kind of first episode or two when he's searching for his sister.
Yep. What's cracking?
I just. It's been a day.
Sure, it happens sometimes.
I got a lot done, but
good. It's good. Right. So, I've been in pain for a little while, right? Not like physical pain, right? Yeah. Like I mean, you know me. I like to build computers rarely and build them so they last a while, right?
Right.
And my current workstation's a little long in the tooth. I have pumped all the potential, like true use out of it that I possibly can. Right. Yeah. I'm still rocking a 6700K.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right. So, like we are in territory where I am CPU bound frequently by things, right. And it is no longer sufficient for what I need to do. So, I put together a plan for a killer workstation, right? Mm-hmm. And it was all predicated on getting basically the brand new version, basically kind of like you have a 7950 X3D.
No, I have a yes.
Yeah, I was trying to get the 9950 X3D, mm-hmm. And it basically sold out instantly. It's only been scalpers. Like it's fucking like I've been watching the supply chain stuff like really closely. I've been trying to use like industry contacts to get information. Fucking nothing, right?
Right.
And I'm like, well, god damn it, right? So then I start going down this rabbit hole of, well, like what do I really want, right? Like what are the things that I need to have work? So the goal is I need a dev machine, right?
Okay.
And I need to be able to put some containers up, and basically I got to redo like a home lab, right? Mm-hmm. I need some way to do some containerization. I need there's a bunch of stuff with AI that I want to do, right? I gotta have the horsepower to be able to do shit, right? And so I was looking at the Orange Pi Plus that I had sent you, right? Because I got those glasses, right? Those AR glasses, and because I want some convenient way to be able to work on things, and the only way that it's comfortable to use my laptop is when I'm literally like reclining on my couch with it sitting in my lap, right? Yeah. The Orange Pi Plus 32 gigabyte, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because we're basically the same height. You know the challenges of being a tall individual, right?
I do.
And man, like I've never been able to use a laptop on a plane. There's just
no. Every time I fly, I'm just going to be cramped and cooped up for the next however long I'm going to be.
Anytime that like if I'm on a flight and my knees are not like shoved into the back of the chair in front of me, it's a good day, right?
Once in a blue moon, they'll be like, "Hey, are you comfortable with being in the aisle with extra leg room, but you have to open the emergency door if shit hits the fan?" And I'm like, yes.
I go out of my way to try to get the exit row, those exit row seats.
I would be happy to accept that responsibility and that extra leg room.
Last time I went to Florida, I paid twice as much for a ticket to see my parents just because I was going to be able to fly in those rows the entire time, and it was.
I get it.
It was worth it. It was worth it. I mean, 10 hours of flights, fucking worth it.
Yeah.
Each way. So I was looking at the Raspberry Pi, right? Mm-hmm. Orange Plus, right? it's I think it's 100 millimeters by 75 millimeters, right? Is its thing, right? It's got a decent chip on it and everything. There's a 32 gig variant. It has dual HDMI out. It has a HDMI in, and it also has a DisplayPort over USB-C out, which is the like one of the big things. Like, so I need DisplayPort over USB-C out for those glasses, right?
Right.
Because then I don't have to have a dock. Those glasses do have, like, if I wanted like a separate device, they have like a little thing that goes around your neck. It's pretty cool. It's basically Android based, and you can use it for, I don't know, like the way most people would use shit, like media and watching movies. And I think you can play like games over like I don't know, whatever those remote gaming services are, right?
Sure.
That technology is finally good enough, but not really the use case that I'm looking for, right?
Sure.
Like my main thing is I'm looking for monitor replacement. So this would work for that, right? And it's not like crazy powerful, but like it'd be enough to be able to run an environment and do some like light productivity work and stuff like that, right? Maybe a little bit more than light. It's got a bunch of RAM and stuff on it, but it's not gonna, it could. It probably, it has enough like AI compute on there to do like some like light AI tasks. Like you could there's other versions of this board that have like 3 like camera plugins for it or whatever. This board also has an NVMe slot on it. The other cool thing about this board that you're looking at is that it doesn't come right. So if you're looking at the front, the top left picture there, if you're looking at the front of it, and on the left hand side, you'll see another M.2 slot there. That's for the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth module that you would have to purchase separately, but it's a good one. So yep. I was like, okay, cool. To get that and that module, and if I wanted actually I have a spare NVMe drive that I could slap in there, right? Then I would need then I would need a case for it, right? Put a case on it. I'm probably spending close to $300 on that thing at that point, right?
Right.
Which is not bad at all, right? And not bad at all, right?
Right.
So then I start doing the math, right? And I'm like, well, I'm at $300 for that, right? Because I'm tech guy and I know hardware quite well. I'm like, like a Mac Mini, for an M4 Mac Mini. Is only $600, right? And I start doing the math on that. And kind of the cool thing about the M4 chip, also ARM processor, it's I don't know 2 or 3 times faster than the chip on that, right?
I should hope.
And yeah, dude, the M4 chip is.
I think if it's gonna get Apple's gonna give it enough power. Of course.
Limitation
on this Orange Pi.
No, it's not. No. I mean, as far as like, this is. So I start doing the math, right? Like, because everything for the Mac Minis and everything is soldered directly on board, right? So you can't like. Technically the storage isn't soldered to it, but it's a proprietary thing, and I do know how to replace them. I've already looked it up and everything.
Right.
Because I like to be prepared. But the memory bandwidth on it is fucking crazy and all this stuff. So then I was like, oh, I wonder how much power it consumes. So idle, just idling, like doing nothing. The M4 Mac Mini only consumes about 5 watts of power, and doing normal tasks, it only consumes somewhere between 15 and 25 watts.
Okay.
Which is fucking nothing, basically, right? And I was like, oh, I was like, that's curious, right? So then I start doing the math, right? So like the benefit of something like that with the the memory's unified, and they have a different architecture for like the M4 series, right? Where it's got essentially built-in CPU, GPU, and NPU, right?
Okay.
All together, unified memory. It's very fast, like as far as like very low memory latency for the processor, like crazy fast, like
because everything's on the same board. There's plenty of bus. Yeah.
So like kudos to those engineers, right?
Right.
So then I started doing the math, and I'm like, well, maybe I just want to get one of those, right, for it, and use that for the AI stuff that I want to do, right? So I start doing the math and research and checking everything, and it really kind of becomes clear that I would probably, if I wanted to do that, I would probably need to at least upgrade the memory to 32 gigs, right, which is an extra. To go from 16 to 32 gigs in that, it takes it from $600 to $1,000.
Oh, Apple.
Yeah, which is crazy. But I'm like, man, that would just be so good though. And I start, then I was like, well, like, like, I wonder if I could, I mean, man, for that, I could get like the base M4 Mac Mini and the Orange Pi, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'm like, that might be a possibility. And then do what the Orange Pi is really probably like best at, right? Use it. So I could get the Orange Pi, set it up to be a server, a firewall, a router, an access point, and basically be a start, like use it for containers and stuff or whatever, right? Definitely could do all that. It's probably like the ideal use case for it, right?
Okay.
So I could set up basically, so I could basically have like a mobile-ish, like a highly portable, like lab setup, right? That using next to no power, very highly functional, right?
Yeah.
But
you could keep a battery pack in your backpack that would keep the thing charged forever.
Well, I mean, trust me, I already did the math, right? Like, if you get like the 100 watt hours is the TSA limit, right? That you don't, you can bring as many of those as you want. 100. I did all the research. Right. You can bring two that are between 100 and 160, but you need the airline's permission to do it, right?
but you can bring three of the hundreds, no big deal.
I could bring a dozen of the hundreds if I wanted to. but the Orange Pi, even at full load, just like sucking everything down. So, the other benefit of those glasses, instead of like having to like push a monitor or a screen or something, those glasses only consume 2 to 3 watts of power an hour.
Oh.
Which, yeah, I'm like, fucking, that's brilliant, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I was like, but the problem with that is because the problem with all of that is that would leave me fairly underpowered for some of the AI stuff that I want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but upon some additional research and then finally and asking Claude for some suggestions, like about it, because I was like, hey, like, is this crazy? Like, what are the pros and cons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and then I was like, because I was asking, I was just trying to do like a comparison, right? And ask it for suggestions, and it was like, oh, you could you could, for that kind of money, instead you could build a dedicated workstation with like a 4060. And I was like, well, I already have a 4070 Ti Super with I already have a 4070 Ti Super with in my current computer, and I told it I had a 6700K, and it was basically like, yeah, the 6700K is not really ideal,
right?
And it was recommending a 4060 or 4060 Ti, and I was like, yeah, I'm like, or this other stuff, and I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. And then it occurred to me, I'm like, I was like, then I asked it to, and I was like, hey, I'm trying to do like medium-sized LLMs, image generation, machine learning, natural language processing, general model development, and experimentation, right? Gave it kind of just all the stuff. And because there are certain things that are optimized for CUDA cores, right? And like truly, like it really does run quite a bit faster.
Yeah.
Like like on those compared to other stuff, right?
Right.
And it was but so basically it gave I was bouncing some ideas off of it, and I could take that, because my video card's already good for it or whatever.
Yeah.
And basically throw that card and get probably the Intel 3600K, which is like $200.
Yeah.
It's great multi-threading performance, right? Because I was, the way I had spec'd my the workstation that I was going to build, it was gonna be like $2,500, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
this is going to be a lot cheaper.
Oh Jesus! Well, if I would even be able to get the processor that I've been wanting to get, right? I'd have to, and then then. Oh, so here's the other part, right? So, because I wanted that, there's only one motherboard, at least a month and a half ago or 2 months ago when I was speccing all this out, right? That could comfortably handle all the things, including PCI Express 5, like NVMEs, right? And it's just like all the things, right? And I mean, it's just, it's brutal. But I mean, like I mean, fucking, like I could spend $200 on a video on a for not that much money, I could basically build, just like a standard like machine, right? That would just sit at home, that I could still. I mean, it'd be more than enough to play games if I wanted to play games, but the benefit of that is just set it up so I would set things up so I could just in my over my home network or securely remotely or whatever, just like throw whatever tasks over to it that I needed to, right?
Yeah.
And just offload to that, and then I don't have to get an upgraded Mac Mini. That would give me better throughput, right? I could the Mac Mini would do better for those glasses anyways, right?
Right.
And I'm thoughts, suggestions, bad ideas.
I mean, my use case is completely different from yours, which is why I went with all the desktop performance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like you're mini lab that you carry around with you sounds like you'd probably have the most fun with, because you could just set it up at your desk at work and do shit in the meantime.
Well, the point would be, because Mac Mini is fucking tiny, dude.
Right.
Like,
you just keep around. You just have your little backpack. You make a foam carrier and everything to plug everything in. You put the battery in. You hook everything up, and you just carry your backpack around with you.
Oh! Trust me. Yes. But okay. Just yeah. That all seems reasonable. And I'm not spending more money, and that segregates things. And it's more flexible.
And you'll just need a website. You'll need a business card with a QR code on it that directs people to your website when they come up and they ask you what the hell you're doing with your glasses on and your haptic feedback sitting in a cafe doing something.
Oh, I don't know if I'd be sitting in a cafe doing something, but yeah. Like that. Yeah.
Here, let me help you join the 21st century. Because the thing that you're looking at this from a like hardware enterprise perspective that most people aren't going to see. They're not going to understand that this Orange Pi thing is even a computer in and of itself. Let alone how you're casting commands to it and how that's interface. Like you're gonna have to explain all this to people.
Well, the cool thing about that,
I get it. I get what you're trying to do because of my background. But nobody else is gonna understand what the fuck you're trying to do. Anybody watching this live stream is like, what the fuck is he talking about?
The cool thing about that Orange Pi, it has dual 2.5 gigabit Ethernet on it.
Oh no, I saw
on board.
I know. Yeah, it's a neat little. It's like I saw this is your Orange Pi idea is better than I saw somebody make a home server out of like 3 old laptops. Like this is a
dude, I'm gonna have I'm gonna have a full server / firewall / router, like all in one tiny little like thing that barely sips power.
Mm-hmm.
And like literally,
and given the wireless coverage in your area, you should never be without internet connectivity unless you go up north or down south.
The wireless card that they make does it does
SIM in it?
No. I'm sure I could probably hack something
you could find
together.
Some sort of adapter, and then you could always have cell network access.
Well,
you could always hotspot through your phone anyway.
I was gonna say I could always hotspot with my phone, so that's not really like a, but the I need to find the Orange Pi Wi-Fi Bluetooth module, because Wi-Fi 6 Bluetooth 5.2
I'm gonna get some more water. I'll be right back.
Yep. I thought
Did you find what you were looking for?
Yeah. The little that module on it does multi-user Mimo, right? So like kind of like a you know when you see those APs that have like 4 antennas, right?
Yeah.
Right. So like the Mimo ones, right? So they can have multiple inbound, multiple outputs at once, right? And it's just better. But we're at a point where that's just like the commonality now. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. Yeah. So I think that's what I'm gonna end up doing. Right? Because then I'll still be able. Yeah, that'll all work out. That'll all work out, and that'll be. Yeah, that'll be the solution. You got the kitty.
My roommate goes over to his girlfriend's house for days at a time. And,
yeah, we've talked about that.
After about 4 or 5 days, he's like, "Hey, somebody pet me."
It's like, excuse me, sir, sir. I require some attention, please.
Pretty much. That's what he's doing. He's trying to get me to go to bed.
Go to bed? Oh,
it's 8:30. I'm getting ready to go lay down.
Well.
I didn't get started until later today. I got a lot done, like around the house. I got the kitchen cleaned up, got a bunch of stuff cooked, and got my head shaved and my beard all trimmed up and everything. And then
hell yeah, man, looks good.
Did some Java hunting and then some exercise and got killed in Dark Souls about 4 times. And I think it's just time to go lay down.
That's fair. I'm gonna go get up and do some chores and cook a little bit of dinner and put together, do some more theory crafting on this. Make sure I'm checking things out. I'm not gonna do anything silly, and just plan it all out. So
I think it's a worthy project. Now support unit.
Thank you, sir. I'm gonna go. I'll end up doing that while I eat dinner, and maybe watching some Red Letter Media or something. So who knows?
Sounds like a plan. Tomorrow, I'll start a lot sooner, and we'll get some Fiverr pages set up and stuff, for try to get some more
cool
income,
deal
streams of revenue coming in.
That's a great idea, homie.
All right, man.
Hang in there. Hope you have a good evening, and chat with you soon, brother.